that this could be the most unusual thing you've like? Is it the number one most unusual?
Okay, so I mean, a lot of things have happened on stage. I opening night on Broadway in a one-man show. I crapped in my pants. Okay?
Welcome to Lights Camera Barstool Season 2. We're on episode 55, I believe, presented by Omega Accounting Solutions. And I'm going to give you their ad right now. If your business suffered significant financial losses and had to shut down in part or in full during the pandemic, you might be eligible for ERC, Employee Retention Credit, the powerful payroll tax credit. ERC was passed as part of the CARES Act to help small businesses recover from the pandemic. If you employed 5 to 500 employees and paid payroll during COVID, you may be eligible for a refund of up to $26,000 per employee. Omega Accounting Solutions is a government tax incentive expert, and they offer services in business intelligence, fractional accounting, and analytics. Omega is a small business champion, helping small business owners navigate the complexities of the accounting process, particularly in the immense opportunities around ERC. They empower small, mid-sized businesses, SMB, owners to make informed decisions through powerful accounting data, analytics, and insightful reporting. A 10-minute call to Omega's ERC specialists can help your company recover up to $26,000 per employee. Call Omega Accounting Solutions at 800-704-2000 or go to omegataxcredits.com to learn more. Okay. No Jeff this episode. We're having a little bit of a dozen fiasco scheduling-wise. So we had to step out while we cover 3 movies today. We're going to be doing Pearl, Woman King, and Blonde, all 3 back-to-back. 3 women movies. This is a big women episode. Maybe we should just end it right now.
I mean, I don't know. What would
Big
you
fan?
I don't know if I'd categorize Blonde as a female empowerment film.
Not a female. It's a woman movie. Not a pro-woman movie, I would say. Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's pro anything, but we'll get into it.
Undeniably 3 movies about women. Let's just say that's
100%. Yes.
We'll leave it at that. We're also going to be talking about a bunch of other stuff today. We got a 4th episode of Andor, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, She-Hulk, a whole bunch of other stuff. Wow. Let's start it out with Andor. I saw this episode because we got the screeners of episode 1 through 4 earlier. I really liked this last one got introduced to a whole bunch of new characters. I remember Clem, who also works here if you're not familiar with Barstool, like, this is going to be your number 1 favorite episode. And he agreed because his new alias for Andor is Clem.
So funny.
It was so
fucking
most random regular name to have.
There's a part of me that wonders if that was intentional. Like, I try not to buy too much into that stuff, but there's a part of me that's like, that is such a specific name.
Yeah.
That it makes me think, hey, here's a little like wink and nudge, dude.
I know, like, it sounds outrageous. Like, they wouldn't, maybe they probably wouldn't know who Clem is, but like, maybe they just like, they're aware of who Clem is. Mm-hmm. They're aware of him. And they're like, I love that name. And they picked it up because, like, it's such a specific name.
Right.
Clem.
And we don't.
When was the last time you saw a character named Clem?
In anything?
Never, ever.
Literally.
Yeah.
Characters named Clem. I wonder if there is actually.
No, I'm glad we're on the same page there because I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, God, this feels so specific. It makes me wonder if it's
ironically there is a character named Clem in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which we just interviewed David Boreanaz. We actually did 3 today. We did Boreanaz, okay. Shatner, and Jacob Batalon from Spider-Man and many other things.
You guys didn't bring this up, and the Boreanaz interview was great. Especially you got to talk a bunch of football. He's such a massive Eagles fan. He had a very delusional take at the end that you got to stick around for. But
yes,
the first episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I didn't watch it through until about 2018. But like 3 minutes in, Buffy is talking to her friend, and she's like, she's talking about someone else, and she's like, he's like a teenage heartthrob, or he's like a heartthrob, like James Spader is the example they use for a Hollywood heartthrob in the dialogue.
Spader was hot back in the day.
Oh, but it's so funny that out of all the 90s heartthrobs they could have used, they used James Spader.
Mm-hmm.
I love, who ironically we did William Shatner today too.
Yeah.
Co-star in Boston Legal.
That's true. You finally got your Boston Legal shout out in. Yeah. But yeah, Andor, I thought this 4th episode was pretty good. But Chris, what do you think?
Okay, well, I had a little rant on Twitter about Star Wars, but my biggest issue with the show is I think they did a really poor job of pacing the first 3 episodes. Like, I think that when you go back and watch, and maybe it's unfair to compare, but like the first episode of Mandalorian just on its own works so well. The very first episode, it sets up, it puts everything in motion. This to me took way, 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 way too long to really, kind of build the house of cards. I feel like there's so much more that we haven't seen that it's hard for me to give an assessment on the overall quality, how I feel about the show. I really appreciate, and it's been pointed out many times on social media as well, I really appreciate the fact that it is not repeating so many of the things that have bogged down Star Wars in recent memory. These are, I know Cassian Andor started in Rogue One, or that was his first appearance, but original characters, very little fan service, very few throwbacks to previous events in the Star Wars universe. It's very self-contained. They're just, as of right now, and this could change, as of right now, I'm just lacking a reason to care. That's been my biggest issue with Star Wars over the last several years, is like, I love The Mandalorian because I really love Mando and Grogu's dynamic, and you really get to know those characters, and Moff Gideon and Gina Carano's character before she got canceled. It's like you really did buy into that self-contained world. Here, I'm waiting for the emotional investment, but I don't know. Right now, and it's still early, I hold this on par with Obi-Wan. Like, I think it's probably an objectively better show than Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan at least had the built-in, like, it was a character you knew that you cared about. Here, it seems like we're kind of getting into a point where this is about to become a heist show, and if that's the case, this could be something good. I want it to work. Like, I want Star Wars to be something that gets me really excited again. I'm not quite there with that or with this yet, but hopefully soon.
You might get cooked for that take later, but we'll see. I think you kind of feel about this how I felt about House of the Dragon, where it's like I didn't care for that first setup 5 episodes, and like you probably didn't care for this first 3 setup. I do think, for whatever it's worth, this is on like a way better track, and I think they've done a decent job of like establishing like Andor as a different character than we're used to seeing him in Rogue One, which is interesting. And obviously the production value, seeing like them on a set is so cool, or like a physical location. Like, I don't even know where they shot this last episode, but like that looked cool as hell. Cool little espionage scenes and like that art dealer place or whatever. But I agree with you in that with Mando, like they were smart in that, like the ending of episode 1 of Mando, there's so much cool shit that happens, but the ending is him holding Grogu and then cut to black. Like that's your hook. That's your reason to keep watching. Yeah. Right. So like I understand it from that point. Well, what did you think, Robbie?
I thought it was incredible. Chris, I strongly disagree. I'm not as much of a Star Wars fan as you, Jeff, and Kinjak, which I think hindered my enjoyment of Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi quite a bit, because the things that it really excelled at were the more fan servicey stuff, which just really didn't do it for me. I think Andor is a massive step up from the previous 2 series. I think it's on par with Mandalorian in terms of like what you see on screen. The writing feels a lot more fluid, like it just feels more natural. As far as Andor as a character, I do see where you're coming from there. I'm not entirely invested in him quite yet, but I like what I see. I think we're going to get there. The backstory just needs to be built up more. And I think my favorite character by far is Stellan Skarsgård's character.
Rocks, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like the spy, the art, like he goes in, he acts as an art dealer. When he's getting ready, at first I thought he was going to dress up as a woman with that wig. I was like, oh, he's going to look like a nice little middle-aged woman, which would have killed me.
He had a cool fit, though. That was really funny. I kept doing like the fake smiles and everything with the wig and all that shit.
That little spy room, that actor who he was in Game of Thrones too.
His like security guard of the?
They're like the spy organization.
ISB and
yes. I thought that was really cool. That little backstory they're giving us there. I'm very excited for like. This is a show I will watch the day it comes out every single week. I'm not going to stay up all night for it, but I will watch it the day it releases, which I can't say for like a lot of other stuff that Disney Plus has been putting out, or even, HBO stuff. I mean, if a show can get me to want to watch day of, it's doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård is becoming one of those actors that's like old man cool.
Yeah.
But like it seems like he's aged very gracefully into his roles, and it's like he doesn't seem like a guy that would come across. He's almost like that. He's not this cool, like the mini Liam Neeson syndrome, where all of a sudden he gets to like a little bit later in life, and it's like, man, this guy's kind of a badass, actually. Yeah.
He spawned like 2 incredible actors too, in Alexander Skarsgård and Bill Skarsgård, which is great. And also the other Skarsgård too.
Yeah, what's the?
Not Peter Sarsgaard. That's
I was about to. That was the joke.
Alex.
No, it's the dude. He was in Vikings.
Why there's so many of them?
There's a lot of Skarsgårds out there. But yeah, so that's Andor. Rings of Power episode 6 came out. I thought it was like one of the coolest episodes. And I'm just gonna note right now, we're gonna be talking about spoilers about the episode, so just keep that in mind for everything we're gonna talk about here. Rings of Power. I thought the episode was awesome. Seeing that like little sort of battle scene, the scene where, and they tease us a little bit in the trailer. The scene where the cavalry is like coming over the ridge, like that looks so goddamn cool.
Yes.
Fight sequences were sick. And then the ending of that episode, like I don't know what I thought was going to happen with this season as far as like the tunnels and like the fact that they're in Mordor and all this shit. I did not see that coming at all.
The payoff on those tunnels was absurd.
yeah.
I'd almost completely forgotten about the tunnels. And then I was like,
Tremendous
oh,
payoff.
fuck, the tunnels. The
Yeah.
tunnels.
Tremendous payoff. I thought it was probably the strongest singular episode yet. Definitely like it fulfilled everything like you wanted for it. Seeing some of the characters meet up, like the character arcs like intersect, I thought was really cool as well. Like Galadriel meeting Arondir and all that. And then like the teasing really for the episode 2 or the next episode is like, where the fuck can we go from here? Everything's burnt to ash. Like,
Yeah, what the hell? Like there's no way they would survive that, right?
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
I get it's a TV show, but like that shit was like Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah.
Like they got absolutely smoked by that.
it got blown up. Chris, what did you think?
I was indifferent about the first few episodes of this show. And as we go along, it's a frustrating watch for me because I think the show looks great. I think that there's a relatively clear narrative there. But I brought it up the last time I was on. I really think the show could have used another write of another script rewrite, because I think they're really lacking in spreading themselves way too thin in regards to characters. Because to me, like Galadriel should be the protagonist of this show, and I think all the stuff with her I like quite a bit. I like the actress. I like the performances. There's a clear backstory, but every time I'm like, all right, here we go. This is about to be awesome. They cut to somebody that I don't care about. So it's kind of a frustrating watch. The action sequences they look pretty fucking badass. I mean, and surprisingly violent.
Yes, I was going to bring that up too.
Yeah. And that was always one issue. I think that we've gone beyond this now, but that I think in the 2000s, even into like the early to mid 2010s, that was a big issue with movies, is PG-13 movies with really violent scenes and no actual violence. You know what I mean? Like even
Like cut away from the
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
like even like my favorite movie ever is The Dark Knight, but like there's zero blood in that movie, and that you have a character that cuts people with knives. It's like I really think, and it's where I think Deadpool was a huge influence for that, where it's like, oh, now we can make big budget movies that have gobs of blood, like that, and then obviously Logan. So it's fine. I understand why people are enjoying it. I think that from a character standpoint, it's lacking to me, but there's intriguing things happening.
Yeah. I feel like I understand where you're coming from, especially with the dialogue part, because it is like that's just how they talk in the Lord of the Rings universe. But like it does feel like they didn't make enough of an effort to like declunk it. You know what I mean? Like make it a little bit more adaptable. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love it so far. I do wish there were more episodes. I just realized that it's an 8-episode season. I completely forgot about that.
Oh,
So
wow.
We're in the end game. I mean, if you're going off the numbers, I mean, the penultimate episode of most seasons is usually the more, action worthy. So I'm going to guess this next episode is going to be the big one. I'm with you, Chris. I do agree that like I'm probably more invested in the more storylines than you are. Like I love Galadriel. I do agree with you that she should have been the more focused middle point, more focused protagonist for the series. But I'm also invested in the Halbrand stuff. I'm invested in the Meteor Man stuff, not the Harfoots. Obviously, I think I've made my opinions clear there. There are multiple storylines I'm invested in, but then you'll cut to something like, what's her name?
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn.
Yeah.
And her son Theo, who just is fucking miserable and fucked up this episode.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you cut to stuff like that, and you're just like, Jesus, like, I just need less of it. I just need less of it.
Yeah.
They can be side characters, but they don't need their own storylines. You know what I mean? They can be part of other people's storylines.
I'm with you completely, and that's the other thing. I think the episodes are too long. I don't
Yeah.
think there's really any
get that.
reason for there to be an hour, 10-minute episode of this show. And a big reason for that is you're focusing too much on characters that are uninteresting. If these were 45-minute episodes like Mando, and Mando had its exceptions. You know, I think the last episode of season 2 was right around an hour, but still, I agree with you completely that you're focusing on characters while simultaneously not giving them a whole lot of development. The show feels repetitive at points.
I will say the one thing that I walked away from this episode with, and again, spoilers if you haven't watched it for whatever reason and you're still listening at this point, Halbrand all the way back on the sus radar for Sauron. Like, that episode, like, I was never more sure. I'm like, that dude's obviously not Sauron. And then everything that he did in this episode made me think that motherfucker is 100% Sauron. So it's very difficult to figure out where he's going. But that was a great kind of like reigniting of that mystery in this episode.
I've gotten to the point where I don't think we've seen Sauron yet.
Mhm.
I don't think we've seen him. I think we'll get him at the very end of the season, and that's what I'm predicting now.
And just
It's-
like
yeah.
they talked about how he did anyway. Adar talked about how he cut open Sauron and killed him and all this shit. And then he's like, "Do you know what this guy did?" Like when he has Adar like spirit point or whatever. Like,
When I also, can we talk about that? Him being the first Uruk.
yeah,
When
that's
he's-
kind of cool. That was a great backstory for Adar.
Great, because what is it, Morgoth or Melkor, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call him? He's the one who created the orcs or the Uruks. And that was a really cool piece of lore that I did not see coming. Because when you think orcs, you're just thinking like
Disgusting little
you're thinking
creatures.
disgusting creatures. You're not thinking like
Which, by the way, shout out to Al Michaels for. Did you see this clip, Chris?
No, wait, what?
No.
Al Michaels on Thursday Night Football. They're doing, obviously with Prime, they're doing advertisements for
Right.
Lord of the
Oh, yeah,
Rings.
yeah.
And Al Michaels is like reading his like little bit for Lord of the Rings. He goes, "Yeah, we're gonna watch them take on the ORC army," because he sees orc and doesn't know what an orc is. Al Michaels thinks it's an acronym for some organization or something. Like, very, very funny.
Do you remember? I mean, least surprising news ever that Al Michaels hasn't watched.
Doesn't know what an orc is.
What could ORC possibly stand for?
Do you remember a few years ago when Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson were calling a college football game, and Joel Klatt said, "You know, this guy, I don't know who he was talking about. It might have been Justin Fields, but don't quote me on that." He said, "This guy's like Superman. He should be hanging out with the rest of the Avengers." and the internet went so nuts that the next week they shit pumped Michigan at the Big House, and Joel Klatt in the fourth quarter had to apologize. Now it might have been Gus Johnson who said it actually, but you could just tell that the two of these guys are like, I don't know what the fuck I said. I'm just making an analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one where Al Michaels could use a little more prep work. But yeah, I agree with you. Just like that
Yeah.
lore was really cool.
ORC.
The ORC army.
We gotta make that into a graphic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I'm
should
trying to
make it
think
a
of what
t-shirt.
ORC could
Yeah.
possibly stand for.
Yeah, we should make it into a t-shirt. That'd be really funny, actually. But yeah, so I think that the backstory for Adar is really cool. Really interesting little
The
bit.
Orc Rights Committee.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be an
That's what it
organization.
sounds
the ORC.
like. Yeah.
We've been digging these tunnels all stinking day.
They
We want a lunchroom.
they unionize,
We want a lunchroom.
want paternity leave for the orcs. But yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff I think from this one. But also from this week we have House of the Dragon episode 7. This one, and I feel like I made my thoughts on this very clear. Like I think now that we're past that time jump, it has gotten, I think, a significant amount better. And this last episode I thought was the best of the season. Now I think this episode is the best of the season so far. A lot of cool shit happened. Again, if you're listening, we're going to be talking about spoilers, so tune out if you haven't watched. I thought it was an awesome episode. A lot of the tension that was from that last one kind of carried over into this one. Got a little bit of a burst with Alicent like going after the kids. That kid. What the fuck is his name?
Aemond.
What a bitch. I hate this guy so much. But that's what's great
though.
about it.
Perfect, though. That's exactly, I couldn't put my finger on what exactly was missing from the
That
early
kid.
parts, and we talked about it last week. Having the kids feuding with each other is such a big part of why Game of Thrones was interesting.
Mhm.
And them being back in the fold, especially being little shitheads where, like, they're trying to carry on what their family wants, but they're so, they're just fucking idiot kids. Like,
Yeah.
kids are just stupid, arrogant, and, like, they'll just say the wrong things. And Aemond fell perfectly into that, very much Joffrey vibes off of
Yeah.
him, which, Chris, you didn't watch Game of Thrones, but one of the most hated TV characters I think ever was Joffrey from the
Yeah,
original
I mean,
Game
yeah.
of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is one of those shows where it's like it was such a cultural phenomenon that you can watch it without even watching it. You know what I mean? Like if you follow it on, it's like a sporting event. If you follow it on Twitter, you get a sense of everything that's happening. So yeah, no, I mean, I remember
And that
they
kid,
dropped
that
the-
kid quit acting.
Yeah, literally. He's like,
yeah,
Jack something. I can't remember. his
Gleason?
full-
yeah.
No.
Well, he was in
That's not
Yeah.
right. Is it
Yeah,
Gleason?
I think
I'm
it is
I'm thinking
Gleason.
Jackie Gleason. I was like, that's not right.
I think it is Gleason though.
Yeah, I think it's Gleason. I'm not sure,
He,
but yeah,
he was. It's funny because he was the little boy in Batman
Dark-
Begins.
Batman
Batman
Begins.
Begins.
Yeah.
That's right.
Um,
But yeah, so I think this episode had a lot of really, really cool stuff in it. Again, with the tension boiling over and all those fight sequences. I think that little bitch stealing the big ass dragon is going to come in huge.
Respect to him. Like, he looked like a bitch by the end, but at the end of the day, he got
a big dragon.
He got the biggest dragon. Well, the biggest tame dragon.
The number one dragon.
Dude.
And then all that ending in that sort of twist at the end that Laenor is actually alive was, I thought, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Really interesting episode. What did you think, Gooch?
I mean, I loved it. I'm on board with you. I loved the early actresses. I was attached to them, but these new actresses, Emma D'Arcy and Olivia Cook, have come in and they have absolutely taken the performances to the next level.
Mhm.
It's just a massive step up, and it's no disrespect to Millie Alcock and Emily Carey. These are just very much like top of the line actresses, just dueling with each other on screen. Pulling out the cat's paw. The cat's paw has become it's become the R2D2 of the Game of Thrones universe. It's just everywhere. You know you're watching Thrones and that stupid little knife pops up on screen, the Valyrian steel. That one shot was so great.
Where it's like over the fire,
It's over the fire. It's like glistening in the fire, and it's pointed at her eye.
Great line
Rhaenyra's
too.
eye, yeah.
Where like she pulls her in and it's like, now everyone sees you for what you are. Like good ass line
great.
delivery.
I can't wait to see. They kind of teased it, and it's definitely going to happen. Is the Daemon versus bitch boy Kristen Cole?
Yeah.
Because when he stepped in to fight, and Daemon just kind of like puts his hand. He's like, "Whoa, chill
Not
out
today,
there, little
champ."
buddy." He's like, "Yeah, he'll definitely hit him with a chief, buddy." God, Kristen Cole is such a little bitch. I cannot believe how nobody's
good, that's
stock has
good.
fallen faster than his. Like the dude came in, his name is Fabian Frankel, and I was like, first episode, I was like, this is gonna be the next heartthrob for television, because I was like, oh, he's Dornish, he's handsome, he's got the eye of every woman on there, he's a great fighter, and then he just continues to do the biggest like head ass like fuck you, like I hate this guy.
That's
hate
the beauty of
He's
Thrones.
such a little twerp. I don't even know the better word for it. He's just a twerp.
What did you think of the episode, Chris?
You know what? I apologize. I'm not caught up. I'm sorry. You know,
That's fine.
This is what I want to apologize to the audience, because what people, and I'm trying so hard. I'm making a lot of promises when it comes to my consumption of media, but this is where my dorkiness and my autism comes in, is because I can't miss baseball games. I can't miss fucking Tiger games. So the team stinks, though they're 9-2 since they hired a new president of baseball ops.
Interesting,
But that cuts 3.5 hours out of my night. So I really do plan on getting caught up. It might not be till the end of the season. I was not crazy about the show. You guys know this. It's, one of those things that's not for me, but my schedule is going to clear up here pretty soon, probably at the end of October. Cause I got, I'm going to be moving all around the country here over the next few weeks, actually, but I'm trying. So I apologize to the people, but unfortunately, I don't have much to add to this.
If I had Aaron Glenn as my DC, I think I'd have trouble focusing too.
I wanted to jump off a building yesterday. That was the worst. That was the worst thing I've ever seen, because it like a little sidebar here. I've never seen a Lions offense be this efficient.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jared Goff looks great.
I played against him in fantasy this week. He absolutely cooked me.
He killed it. And Geno Smith was apparently Randall Cunningham for the 98 Vikings yesterday. I've watched NFL football. I've watched football a long time. I've never seen a team in the NFL score 45 and lose. And I've never seen a team not allow a punt, which is what happened. So I'm with you, dude. I was going back and forth. It was one of the few times this entire, we're in the fall now, but this entire year in which I'm like, wow, the best part of my day was watching the Tigers. But that's usually not the case. They played great. But I apologize for that, but I'm going to try to make up for it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. But we can talk, and I know you're dying to talk about this. She-Hulk. The latest episode of She-Hulk.
I'm trying to think if I even watched it. Can you give me a rundown of what happened?
What
No, but I was
episode?
about
What
to
episode are
say-
we on right
I
now?
don't even know, like 8, maybe 7 or 8 or something. But I was about to say, so I watched that episode. I remember I was like, oh, this is like a solid one. And then I can't remember a single detail about it.
What happened?
All I remember is like there was a couple things that made me laugh, and that's it. I couldn't
I don't
tell
think
you.
I actually don't think I watched it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I watched it.
I watched
I
it,
don't
like-
know if I did either. The show after like episode 4 just became so. It's like fast food. It just goes right through you. Like you don't
Oh.
really consume it or really enjoy it. Yeah, it's one of the big Marvel failures. Because I know none of us have been crazy about the TV shows really, but like I'll just throw out one show like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Nothing amazing, right? But it was
There's some
a
memorable
clear
moments.
objective. Yeah.
it was a thing. Like I got what they were going for. This one's gonna be one of those like it's not this much of a disaster,
Mhm.
but it's like that Inhuman show where it's like people are just gonna remember it as you remember that thing that was a thing for like half a minute.
Yeah.
That's what She-Hulk is. Yeah.
This episode was with Tim Roth, and they have like a superhero meditation retreat thing.
Okay,
which
yeah, I
was-
didn't see this.
yeah. So it was actually a pretty
No,
funny
I didn't-
episode. It was actually a pretty funny episode for any of you. That
I'm
did watch. I
watching
thought it was
through
solid.
a different law show right now. I'm watching Better Call Saul.
I thought you were
and
saying Boston Legal
I
again.
just got to season 3. No, Boston Legal is
I was about to
something
be a
I've watched,
recurring
I've
bit.
watched a few times. No.
Give it time, Gooch. That's going to be the next spinoff.
Yeah,
is the
literally.
Better Call Saul She-Hulk
Yeah.
crossover.
Oh, don't even say that, dude. Just give me a spin-off. Like,
Hey,
what's her
when Disney buys AMC or whoever
Hi,
it is,
I'm
who's
Jen
in charge-
Walters. Did you know that you have rights? Well, the Constitution says you do.
I don't even want to think about this, man. I don't even want to. Don't breathe life into it. But I thought this last episode was funny for what it's worth.
It'd be
I
very
think you guys
funny if it
will
was
like
just Kim Wexler just painted green.
but yeah, I think it was a solid one. We don't have to stay too long on it since
There's some other Marvel stuff to get to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before we get into some of the other news, we'll talk really quick about Allbirds. I'm wearing them right now. I love Allbirds. And you know what? We've all got goals to meet and miles to log. Keep your feet warm and dry with the Wool Dasher Mizzle shoes from Allbirds. The Wool Dasher Mizzle are Allbirds with weather repellent performance running shoe. It's sustainably made from natural materials with a low environmental impact on the planet, which is awesome. And I think the biggest thing about them, crazy comfortable. Again, wearing them right now. I don't know if you can see if you're watching on YouTube.
Put them up on the table. Come on.
Let's throw them up. These suckers stink right now, probably, but
All right, now take your socks off.
That's the nature. That's the nature of the business. They're so cool. They printed the Wool Dasher Mizzle's carbon footprint right on the shoe, so you know the impact on the planet. And then they offset that footprint to 0 to make it a carbon neutral product. I got again black on white here. I also have green on white. Green on white. Somewhat green. I like green shoes. You know what I mean? They don't match anything.
I'm not big
but
on color shoes. You can see like I'm wearing
black
I
and
got
white.
I got the dad shoes, the gray New Balances.
I love these though, and especially these black and white ones because, and this is something that I don't think it's in this ad, but they put it in most Allbirds ads. Like you can wear them with like anything. Like I'll wear these if I'm just like going out running an errand or whatever. But you could also wear them with pants, and it looks professional, which is nice. So super comfortable. This fall, keep your feet cozy and dry with Allbirds Wool Dasher Mizzles. Discover your perfect pair at allbirds.com today. That's ALLBIRDS.com. All right, so we do have some news to get to. The big one is a big piece of Marvel news, and it's that Hugh Jackman's reprising his role as Wolverine in Deadpool 3.
Go.
Sean Levy's going to direct. Obviously, his most recent thing is Adam Project. This is something where apparently before the merger, the idea was to have Hugh Jackman join him in Deadpool 3 as like a road trip comedy. And that obviously, I don't think that they can do that now, but they managed to get him back for this. Some people were mad about it being like, oh, well, he's dead. Like, that the Logan storyline is in a totally alternate timeline that's in the future.
It's alternate from the original X-Men stuff.
Yeah, it's completely
There was
separate.
like X-Men heads that fucking hate Logan for that exact reason, is that it goes off script.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
those people are crazy, but yeah,
know.
you're
totally
right, yeah.
off thing. The way they announced it, obviously through Ryan Reynolds' tweet
That was
and the
great.
video, very funny, very
That was
Ryan
great.
Reynolds, and then the
Yeah.
follow-up explanation that was drowned out by music, also very funny.
Did you see John Boy's breakdown of that? By the way,
No,
he perfectly read
lips?
the lips of both of them, and it was just essentially gibberish. Like it was as expected. zero explanation for what the movie is actually going to be about.
Yes.
But yeah.
This is obviously huge. Wolverine and Deadpool, big history in the comics. Deadpool as a character has always talked about Wolverine in all the Deadpool movies, and always joked about it. He obviously went and visited him in the time machine scene at the end of Deadpool 2. They have a very interesting history from Ryan Reynolds first playing Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine, which, by the way, who did we just talk to? Jacob Batalon, he said that X-Men Origins Wolverine is one of his favorite movies.
Oh, I forgot he
movies.
said that.
I was like,
I made a face. And I was like,
did
tried
you?
not to, because I was like, dude, that's a fucking terrible.
I was like,
pick.
dude, are you thinking of the right movie? Like, I'm not sure what you're thinking of. But yeah, so big history between these two characters. I think this is obviously awesome. I feel like it's difficult to think this isn't awesome news for Deadpool and for Hugh Jackman, really, because like he is. You want to talk about people in like these actors like defining that superhero role? It's like him. RDJ is Iron Man, and like that's it.
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's not like a lead character like that.
Like Reeve is Superman, but like even that, I wouldn't say is as strong as Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He played him for such a long time. Getting a little swan song and giving him just a little taste of the MCU, I think is great. He deserves that. He enjoys a little taste.
Yes. I'm fine with it for one movie.
Yes.
I don't want to see anything beyond this. And that's what concerns me about Spider-Man No Way Home too, is like, I don't need to see Toby or Andrew ever again, like doing that. I think that you're going back to the well one too many times if that happens. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show. I think Logan is like one of the best movies of the last years. Yeah. That movie is so fucking good. And I truly think we obviously Joaquin won for Joker and Ledger won for The Dark Knight. I think if there was a comic book performance in recent memory that deserved an Oscar nomination, I thought him and Logan was incredible. I'm okay with this simply because I know this is going to have a drastically different tone than Logan did.
Yes.
Like Logan was, and that's what I loved about it. Logan was a depressing movie, dude. Like it was, I mean, that was the amount of
and
like
brutal.
It's Cormac McCarthy's The Road set in a comic book universe.
That's man, what a great way to put it. I mean, it was there was a almost apocalyptic like Western element to that movie. So they have a great rapport. I think that the one thing about Ryan Reynolds that gets overlooked, because I think Ryan Reynolds is legitimately one of the funniest people in Hollywood, but his movies have a legit heart to them. And I do think that there will be some kind of meta element to the fact that, hey, look, we made a movie like a long time ago, and you kind of butt fucked my character, and you went on to like make this, a groundbreaking movie in Logan, but we're friends. Like, I think I don't love Deadpool 2, but the one thing I do appreciate about it is when it mattered most, it took itself way more seriously than anyone thought it would. And that's what I love about Free Guy too. I mean, it was made by the same director.
Him and Sean Levy have a good
rapport.
They have a good rapport together.
They understand each other's.
So I think this will be good. I also am very curious how Deadpool is going to work into the rest of the MCU.
Yeah,
because I think that he's a small sample size character. I think that as much as I love Ryan Reynolds in that role, I do feel like I don't necessarily need to see Deadpool in the next Avengers movie. I think that could be a little bit wonky. But for a one-off, they were put in a very difficult position following Deadpool 2, right? With the merger and everything. I really want this to work because I like that character and I love the first Deadpool.
Yeah, so I think if I had to imagine, number one, obviously they're not sticking with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. They're going to recast him. He's like the biggest single name that they acquired in the Fox deal, so like they need him to be recast in a long-term format. I also think that with Deadpool, he's going to be more of like a self-contained universe where it's just going to be he's in his movies. Other MCU characters might be in his movie. Okay. He won't be in theirs. If I had to imagine, just because like the element he brings is so different, which is a good thing, very R-rated, very like raunchy, and like that's just not something that is part of mainline MCU. So I feel like that it would be like a one-way relationship in that sense. But Gooch, what do you think?
I mean, this is incredible, and I don't know if I might have told you about this. 2 days before this announcement, I walked right by Hugh Jackman.
That's crazy. No, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Where?
Down in my neighborhood's like, if you go kind of down towards the West Side Highway, it gets a lot more bougie. And I was coming up from a run, and he was walking by with his like bag of Citarellas coming back from the grocery store, it looked like. But yeah, no, it was definitely him.
Does he live in New York, or is this just some random
Yeah,
guy?
no, he lives in New York because he does the Broadway stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He's been doing music. He has to be one of the most recognizable celebrities.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Because,
was like, I was like 6'3", just so handsome. He still had a mask on too, which was like,
Oh, really?
yeah,
That's
'cause
very,
it's
yeah.
like-
Yeah. I don't know if there's a celebrity in Hollywood that middle-aged moms love more than Hugh Jackman.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the most like inoffensive but super talented. Like
he's got
like
such a cool career because he's like,
Yeah.
he plays the most badass comic book character, and then on the flip side, he's just very much into doing dance and song kind of movies, like
Right.
Greatest
And
Showman, and he's a very talented
he's, and
singer,
he's-
dancer.
yeah.
Like he's one of the more talented people in Hollywood in terms of he can give you drama, comedic, musical. Like he can do it all. I mean, he's the
Yeah,
fucking man.
And he seems like a genuinely nice guy too. So yeah, no, that's funny.
I know.
I mean, I
so
would-
LCB misses out on another scoop.
Yeah, I could have.
I could have just stopped it.
you,
with, like,
you gonna say you're gonna play Wolverine again?
I wouldn't even
Dude,
thought to
how
ask
funny?
it.
How
never
funny
thought
would
this
it have been? How funny would it have been if he would have just been like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it." Like
Yeah.
there was that
Keep your eyes
story
peeled.
that came out where somebody went up to Tobey Maguire at an airport like a few years ago. I was like, "Are you gonna play Spider-Man?" He just said, "Yeah, fuck it, yeah, I'm gonna do it." Like,
That's funny.
if he did,
No, I mean, like, Wolverine is such a great character. Like, if you remove the MCU from the equation, the most popular Marvel characters, it's Spider-Man, Hulk, and it's Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think they're a very clear tier above the rest in terms of just like how fans resonate with those characters. So getting Wolverine back in this iteration, I think is huge for them. I still don't have a fucking clue what their plan is for the X-Men. There's so many rumors about them not even be able to use new iterations of characters until like 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is good news in my opinion.
Yeah.
And if going back to like people thinking Ryan Reynolds and the MCU will make him a cheap character, I do agree with you. The Ryan Reynolds Sean Levy pairing has been nothing but successful.
Yeah.
Free Guy had emotional weight to it. There were parts where I teared up at Free Guy. I mean,
I love Free Guy. It was
Had
one of my
it real
favorite
hard.
movies of that year.
The Adam Project did not expect to really resonate with that movie. There's parts in that really fucking tore me up. Like the relationship, like they're diving into familiar relationships, your relationship with your father, and it's like, God, this is carrying some weight in between these like Ryan Reynolds punch jokes. Like I think this will work. I also think Ryan Reynolds has a massive level of respect for Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Hugh Jackman as a person, where he will not desecrate that grave.
Yeah.
I also think they have a respect for each other because I know Logan doesn't exist if not for Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like the success of Deadpool
Opened up
led
the
to
doors.
Logan
Yeah.
being what it was. And Logan isn't a great movie because it's rated R, but it sure as shit helped. I mean,
The
just-
movie doesn't happen if it's not rated R.
Yeah, that's the thing is I have a hard time going back and watching the other X-Men movies because of Logan. Like it's just so much better and so much more violent and honest than the what came before.
Just a fucking brutal movie.
Yeah.
Next, another piece of Marvel news. They did a new trailer for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It's in theaters November 11th. I like the first trailer a lot. I still think I like the first one more than this one because the song usage in it was really, really cool. But you did get some looks at some other characters. You got look at Ironheart in her suit, which was kind of sick. A couple other little blips and pieces of action scenes. Go look at our villain. Was it Namor, right?
Namor.
Yeah.
Namor.
Who looks sick. All his little avatar people as well, which I'm not doing any research into this movie at all because I just want to believe that they're avatar people and it's like the Way of Water 1.0, which I guess would just be Avatar, but whatever. But yeah, so interesting trailer. Chris, what'd you think?
I thought the first trailer, I don't think I was on for when we talked about the first trailer. I don't remember why.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Was one of the most well put together trailers I've seen in a long time. It just hit all the beats it needed to hit. This looks a little bit more generic. But and Jeff and I have talked about it, and we've all talked about it. I have total faith in Ryan Coogler. Like, I'm not crazy about the MCU right now, but the one movie you kind of can't afford to fuck up is this one.
Yeah.
Like you really do need to go all out and make sure that it's not just a good movie, but also a touching tribute to a guy who did amazing things, not just for the MCU, but by
Just
all
an amazing
accounts,
person. Yeah.
as a person with Chadwick Boseman. I mean, it's a tough thing to do. If I had one complaint, look, I maybe I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure I'm right. Shuri's going to be the new Black Panther. I wish
she's lead billing, so like it's pretty much guaranteed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anti-vax. Anti-vax Black Panther.
I wish they kept that a secret. It would have been really cool if you went into the movie, and that's where, look, I know it kind of leaked, but it's where I give No Way Home a lot of credit, because they could have easily put that in the trailers. You know what I mean? Be like, hey, these guys are back. But my hope is that this is the movie, the more mature Marvel movie that I would like to see kind of change the MCU in the sense that people are very open and accepting of more mature stuff. Sure. And this is going to be something that is going to acknowledge the death of an actor that had a crazy like impact on the world of film and comic book films. So I am still very much looking forward to this, though I do think the first trailer, no pun intended, blew this out of the water.
Yeah. It was a really, really good one.
We gonna be all right.
Yeah, I mean,
I've watched that trailer a few times. It's a really that was pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Can I make a prediction real quick? Also, before I'm sorry, Good. I bet Angela Bassett gets an Oscar nomination for this.
You think so?
Really?
She looked like she was killing it in that one scene in the first trailer.
Bet, because look, and Jeff has talked about it before. There's pushes and there's campaigns for Academy Award nominations. Grieving mother in the context of the movie. I bet she's going to be front and center. I bet Disney's really going to push for her. I don't think she's. I'll have to double check. I'm not sure if she's ever been nominated.
I'll check right now.
Even if she hasn't, I bet they're going to make a serious push for her to get Best Supporting Actress nomination. She won't win, but
I think we lost Chris for a second there. But yeah, no, I agree with the sentiment of what Chris is saying.
Even if she, I don't want to see her take a spot away from someone deserving, but a nomination I think it's important for these movies, because we talk about how The Dark Knight got robbed for Best Picture nomination, and we talk about, there's been
he's coming back. We'll get him back in a second.
There's been many performances in the past where it's like they really deserved more recognition for their role, even if it was a comic book movie. And just getting these nominations on the board opens the pathway for more performances down the line, getting recognition, especially not even just comic book movies, but blockbuster movies, bigger movies that everyone is seeing. I think those roles they don't want to recognize them.
Yeah.
But they should be in some capacity, especially when they're as good as like The Dark Knight. Like that should have been recognized. And it's important that these nominations happen now, and then it opens up the door later down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. should have been nominated for Endgame.
At some point.
I'm gonna stand by that, because I think Jeff has talked about it many times how the last Lord of the Rings was the encapsulation of, we're giving you all the Oscars now because you made 3 amazing films. Like Tony Stark is one of the most iconic characters ever in film, and nobody really gave a shit about Iron Man until 2008, right?
No,
and that was all his. So even if it's just like a ceremonial thing, like I'm with you, dude. Like these people, they do give incredible performances in these movies sometimes.
I think it's a matter of time, and they'll eventually find a way to incorporate it. That's not in like what was the way they did it a couple years ago? They were going to do like most popular movie or
they fucked up. They did not know what the fuck they wanted to do. They like changed it around. They're like, they're going to recognize it during the show. Now they're not.
The sentiment's right.
And then it ended up becoming. Didn't it not end up becoming
it was
Oscar cheer-worthy moment? And that's where Ezra Miller picked up his Academy Award win for most cheer-worthy moment. The Flash enters the Speed Force. Oh, and then they found out later on that it was like completely corrupted because like
Snyder
bots.
We did on the bracket last week, Chris. We did celebrities you would least want to be stranded on an island.
I saw that. Yeah,
Ezra Miller versus Armie Hammer. Who would you take? Who do you want to be in an island with least?
Francis was so unaware of like either of their actions. Like Francis had no clue that Armie Hammer was just confirmed a cannibal.
Yeah, like, he's like, I am 100% a cannibal. Was his tag?
That's the funniest DMs. Look at me stealing TVs.
Yeah. Next up, we had another Marvel piece of news. The Blade is looking for a new writer and director after Bassam Tariq exited the project because of scheduling issues. I heard he was fired at some places. Then other people say he just left because of scheduling. I don't know if I can know. Filming was supposed to begin in November, but now everything's all backlogged or jammed up, I guess. This is a movie where it is a big opportunity for Marvel to branch out again into something more new, which would be great for them, like going into the vamp world and having a high profile actor like Mahershala Ali that like you see the pop he got when he came out when they first announced Blade, like it's crazy. So for them to be at this stage and to be fucking up this bad is very uncharacteristic. But I would hope with this character more than any other character, I'd be like literally take your time, take as much time as you need, get the character right, get the script right, get everything else right. Don't rush into this and make a shitty Blade movie because then everyone's gonna be really pissed off.
I'm with you, but I'm starting to wonder if this movie might not happen.
Yeah, I am too.
If it does happen, I don't know if it'll happen with Mahershala Ali, because the one thing, and this is not a knock on any one of these actors, but like Chris Hemsworth would have waited a decade to be in Thor.
Yeah.
Mahershala Ali is a 2-time Academy Award winning actor. And he was announced as Blade almost, I think it was 2019 Comic-Con. I think it was pre-COVID. So I don't think he's going to wait around for this thing to be rewritten, over and over again. I would love to see it. I mean, like that dude is one of the best actors working right now. And him as Blade, like when that was announced, people were like, holy shit, like this is going to be awesome. We're teetering on that point where it's like, is this going to be a thing? How do you make this work within the MCU?
July 2019. You're right. That's crazy.
Yeah. So over 3 years, how crazy is that? So they're this thing might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, and this director, I'm almost positive, was someone that he handpicked for the project. Which,
oh man,
yeah, like this is we're in shaky waters here. I don't think people would be too upset if this project goes away. If it goes away based on like Mahershala Ali coming out and saying, or the rumors are right now the script was fucking terrible.
You don't want to be,
and they just put it to the side instead of moving forward. I think that shows a lot of growth and responsibility on Marvel's part to not move forward with something that's shitty, and knowing that like they'll make $1 billion at the box office even if they put it out and it's a shitty script, but they're the strength to say no to something like that.
Yeah, especially I think there's
important.
There's something to keep in mind in that Morbius is pretty fresh on everyone's brain. So it's like, hey, let's not trot out a vampire movie that's dog shit, or else it's going to get fucking roasted along with Morbius, which also I feel like a lot of Morbius people think is still part of the MCU, including some of those, cast members. What was it? What's his name? Tyrese Gibson?
Yeah, Tyrese thought it was MCU.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we're in the MCU for sure. And nope,
I would say at the end of the year, we should do a rundown of the funniest movie stories like of the year. I think number one with a bullet has to be Tyrese Gibson thinking Martin Scorsese was praising Morbius.
That was sad.
Yeah, that was really sad. Oh. And the last thing on Marvel news, this was actually just announced right before we started. Michael Waldron is going to write Avengers Secret Wars. This Secret Wars is going to be crazy because like, as far as I know, the genesis of Secret Wars is like all the big superheroes get transported by an alien creature to a planet where they all basically have to like fight to the death, right? And so I have no fucking clue how you do this at all. But like Michael Waldron, I think is a good writer. We talked a little bit about Multiverse of Madness, just like how his voice was definitely drowned out a bit by Sam Raimi's overpowering voice, which makes sense. It was Sam Raimi's movie, but you could feel that.
I think he just got. I don't want to make excuses for him. Michael, if you're listening, I'm not making an excuse for you. But
we love you, Michael.
He did get kind of fucked there, having to rewrite in 6 months once they changed over from Scott Derrickson to Sam Raimi. That's tough. That's tough, especially when you're dealing with a large MCU where you have to take a million things into account. I think he drew the short end of the stick there.
Yeah.
I think that's often been the case with the MCU too, where I think for the most part, the screenwriting, the choices of screenwriter have been fine. I think that the schedule is so tight there. Look, I mean, I've been talking a lot, so I'll just keep it short. I hope it works. Hope it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a fucking Avengers movie. I mean, it's a franchise that's important to me. So I hope he does it right.
It'll be the 42nd film in the MCU and the final installment of Phase 6 in the Multiverse Saga.
They're set to come up back to back, right? 2 Avengers movies in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
That's that's the plan. It's Kang Dynasty and then right back to Secret Wars.
Yeah, and this is November 7th, 2025.
By the way, the Ant-Man trailer leaked online. Go look for it. We're not going to post it.
I saw one little bit of it.
Looks awesome. Yeah, Kang showed up halfway through the trailer. He looks fucking sweet. There's no spoilers, and it's just a trailer that they showed at D23.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I'm with you, Chris. The MCU's in shaky waters. It's starting to feel like post Michael Scott Office. It's like there's still good stuff,
Good points.
but like
Yeah.
Robert California can only carry you for so long.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with it. I really do hope, and I mentioned it earlier, that Wakanda Forever is the big, you're driving down the freeway and then you take a sharp turn off the exit and it's like, now we're figuring out how to make this work.
Yeah.
Because we're close to the same age. I was 12 when the first Iron Man came out, and I think that was like a prime demographic. That means those people are adults now. And I think you need to go about making a few more adult movies. And I think Wakanda Forever is a perfect prime example of that. Not to say that you should rip away all the humor, maintain the personality, but man, we'll talk about it when we get to the worst of the year. I fucking hate Love and Thunder. And that was an MCU movie to me that was so misguided. I really hope they go in a different direction here going forward.
I think I saw one MCU adult movie, and that was it was Guardians of the Galaxy one. Did you watch this one? The adult version of Guardians of the Galaxy? You've seen that one, right?
Might have seen it.
It was pretty good. Not gonna lie, they got a lot of the major plot points down. There's a lot of dedication to the craft in that one. But yeah. Oh, by the way, do you know who played Robert California? The same dude from Boston Legal. Do you know that? James Spader.
I'm the fucking Lizard King.
That was such a great line. I don't care whatever you want to think about Robert California.
I actually am a Robert California season defender. I think that season actually is really, really good. I think he was very funny.
You rocked. Before we get into the other half of news, let's hear from Manscaped. We talk about Manscaped basically all the time. And I actually like their opening line for this ad read is "Welcome to Fresh Ball Fall." I kind of like that. You definitely want fresh balls all the time, but fresh balls in fall.
I've been putting it off. I need to shave my balls.
Yep. There you go. And it's the season of pumpkin spice. Make sure your crotch is looking nice. Oh, these are great. They stepped up. That means we'll be sipping cider in a fall breeze and using Manscaped products to trim your balls with ease. Yo, the rider really stepped up. I love this. As always, we'll be talking about one of their package deals. The Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 has everything you know and love about the performance package, plus shower goodies. Includes the Lawnmower 4.0 all-new skin-safe electric trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear, nose, and hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver spray ball spray toner, and the Magic Mat disposable shaving mats. We've talked about Manscaped all the time. It's awesome. No nicks, no cuts, no none of that stuff. I use it in the shower whenever I need to, give it a little bit of a trim around the areas. It's obviously doesn't
shower. You're a shower trimmer.
Well, yeah, because you can with Manscaped. Like if I was with my I have a for my face a different razor, obviously, but with that one, I'm not gonna do it in the shower because I'd get electrocuted.
What I do is I turn backwards on the toilet and I face the wall.
So you straddle the toilet.
I straddle the toilet, and then that's how I do it.
Yeah, that's how I used to do it. Then I switched to shower just because I
also I like to wait for my balls to be nice and droopy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you get a hot shower. They're gonna hang a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like to shower after the shave.
Okay, that makes sense. But then if you shower while you shave, you can just wipe it all off.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Give it a try one time.
Talking shaving balls.
Talking about shaving nuts. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with code LIGHTS. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use code LIGHTS. Manscaped, clear out the leaves. It's your tree trunk's time to shine. Again, great rhymes. They stepped up their game big time. That wasn't one of them.
Man, they're being very
very generous.
They're spitting bars, yeah.
Extremely generous, yeah, with Tree Trunk. It's more like
well, if you listen to the Minahan show today, there's clearly somebody on this podcast who is rocking a tree trunk based on what the internet was saying.
Oh, Minahan thinks you have a giant hog?
No, Jeff Lowe. Oh, okay, I didn't know that you guys saw the photo that was released yesterday that the internet went ablaze about. It was a hilarious segment where Jeff called in and was like, "No, that's not my penis." That's not.
I did not see that.
Did not know this. Well, if LCB ever starts to dip below the profitability line, I mean,
yes.
The OnlyFans market has been taking off within the office. Maybe we can convince Jeff.
Trill Bone sent me a very funny tweet or text this morning. He said,
"Just a picture of Jeff's."
Do you know? No, I'm really funny. We were talking about House of the Dragon, and he just calls Reese
fans,
Reese OnlyFans, and I was like, I'd check it out. You can give it a peek. But yeah, thanks to Manscaped. Next, we have Freya Allen will star as the human lead in the next installment of Planet of the Apes, titled Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It'll take place many years after the end of the last trilogy and will release in 2024. Right after this dropped, I think the first thing I tweeted was I'll say right now, which is I think that the Planet of the Apes trilogy is like extremely underappreciated as far as like blockbusters go. Really, really fun time, great action. Even like I feel like I when I tweeted about it, people said they didn't like the last one. I thought the last one was
Yeah,
excellent.
I don't know.
I thought that was the best one.
Yeah, I thought it was
I
excellent.
see some weird takes on that trilogy, like only one was good.
Only the
or
James Franco one was good.
the
I was like,
first-
that's the weakest probably out of the three.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that, but I think that third one was awesome, and it is a world where like you want to talk about like the action blockbusters that all kind of feel the same. That didn't totally feel like that. It was new. It was different. It shouldn't have worked. Because Planet of the Apes just shouldn't work in general. Just going back and looking at Mark Wahlberg and the Tim Burton one, like it shouldn't. It should be shit.
Yeah.
It's fucking talking monkeys shooting at people. Like that shouldn't work, but it did, and it worked really well, especially with Andy Serkis in control of the mocap there. But super excited for this. How about you, Chris?
Yeah. I'm glad they're moving it far into the future because I don't want it to seem like it's the fourth installment of the Serkis trilogy. I tweeted it out. I think that if we're talking big budget films of my lifetime, big budget series, I think it's Lord of the Rings, the Dark Knight trilogy, and the Planet of the Apes trilogy. I think those movies are, well, like I said, they're financially and critically successful, are still underrated. Like I would call them groundbreaking, and I especially Rupert Wyatt did the first one, but what Matt Reeves did with the last two, incredible. I'll make another prediction. This trilogy ends. Because there's only so much you can do with Planet of the Apes.
See, I disagree. I think there's so much bone. I think there's so much meat on the bone here.
Maybe there is. I bet this trilogy ends. Now, I thought the last trilogy would do this too, but it turned out to be a way more, despite starring apes, a way more human story. It ends with the Statue of Liberty being buried in the sand somewhere. It has to. You can't have, and they alluded to it a bunch in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes back in 2011. But no, I'm very trepidatious because I love that series so much. But yeah, I mean, it's bizarre how long lasting this franchise has been. Maybe it's gonna be like a comic book series where you just keep rebooting it because you feel like you have more stories to tell. So I'm cautiously excited.
I think one really smart thing they did throughout the Matt Reeves trilogy, and I know people are like, he didn't direct all three. It's his trilogy. They changed the world setting almost every year. The world was completely different every single installment. So it felt very fresh, and you kind of were introduced to a new world each time. And I hope they continue that trend. I think this time will be even further in the future. I could see them reverting back to seeing like maybe humans take the world back in this trilogy. Whatever it is, the word on the street is that this script that Wes Ball put together is as good as it gets. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of chatter that this script, they wouldn't move forward without it, and it apparently is fucking phenomenal, like golden. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward. I really like Freya Allen. Chris, you probably haven't watched The Witcher. I'm gonna guess not. It's very fantasy. It's very high. It's very high fantasy.
It's House of the Dragon mini kind of.
You know me very well at this point, dude. I'm not,
She's great in the role though.
She is good series. Yeah,
she pretty much plays the main character, even though the series is called The Witcher. Yeah, she's strong. She's a strong actress. Haven't seen her in much outside of it, but looking forward to seeing what she does here. I think
I'm sorry. Is it confirmed she's gonna play a human?
Yes. She's the human lead, and the rumor is that it's the human girl from the third one who couldn't speak.
Yeah,
Nova.
Yes, that's apparently the rumors that it'll be 20 years into the future, her aged up. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I can't. The release date they put out is 2024. There's no fucking way that's quick. Unless they start filming here in the next few months. Yeah. There's a lot that I can't imagine the post-production on that's easy. With all the mocap gone.
CG stuff.
Also, I want to see Andy Serkis come back. You don't have to obviously don't bring him back as Caesar, but you're in a mocap, so it's like you get a lot more freedom to do what you want. I'd love to see him come back because he's just so fucking good in mocap. There's not a clear,
he owns mocap.
There's Bill Nighy would be second in that category. I don't know who else even comes.
But even he doesn't master it. He was just like the subject. You know what I mean?
Toby Kebbell, I guess, in that series.
Sean Gunn's done a lot of work in mocap. But outside that, I mean, Andy Serkis is fucking phenomenal.
He's the guy.
Yeah. I'm listening to
Andy Serkis is that actor that when he's 80 is going to get that honorary Oscar for what he's done, and we're going to look back and be like, how the fuck did he never get nominated for Gollum? How did he never get nominated for Caesar?
Well, don't forget about what you think about Venom 2, which he directed.
I don't blame him for that necessarily. I take it back. Shove the Oscar up your ass.
I'm listening to The Hobbit on Audible right now. We don't have a sponsor that's opposite
no.
Audible. All right, listening to it on Audible right now, and I'm listening to his version, and he's so performative and great.
Yeah.
Even in a voice role like that, where it's a very enjoyable listen. Hearing Andy Serkis run through all the voices and like it's very fun. I like Andy Serkis quite a bit. I want to see him. I want to see more of him.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I'm very pumped up. Next, we have Jonathan Majors is going to star as Dennis Rodman in a movie about the NBA player's infamous 48 hours in Las Vegas. I think it's going to be called 48 Hours in Vegas. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are going to produce it. It's about after the 98 finals when he went out to Vegas and had a little bit of a wild time. I know that they're casting a couple other people for it. Yeah, they're casting a couple people for it right now. I know that like Billy Corgan was up for debate on it or something like that. Rodman, very fascinating dude. Not a tragic figure, but a very eccentric. And I guess you could consider him a little bit of a tragic figure. Very, very, very interesting cat. Very excited for this. Anything Phil Lord and Chris Miller do, I will tune in for opening night. And Jonathan Majors, obviously one of the fastest rising stocks as far as any actor in Hollywood you can ask for. And him as Rodman, I think is going to be absolutely excellent. I'm very excited for that. But you're the Pistons guy. What do you think, Chris?
I'll keep it short. The Last Dance, some of my favorite parts were Rodman parts. Perfect casting, great story, great producers. I bet this works. I bet it works really well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The best sports movies are never about what's on the field.
Yep.
It's always about what's on the field. And that's why I have a lot of faith in this. Once you try and start like doing like sports stuff, you're actors. It just doesn't, you're too Hollywood and you're too much like, you got too many drama kids just involved in the situation where it just doesn't ever really feel right. Once you get to the off-field stuff, like Moneyball, great fucking movie. Excellent movie. Remember the Titans? Really not about the on-the-field stuff. It's about the off-the-field stuff. My favorite sports movies of all time are always like the ethereal stuff outside the arena. Dennis Rodman is, I mean, he's a character from a movie walking around in real life. I mean, the stuff that just who he is, like he's wild. I mean, he's insane. Hopefully Majors did Rodman have the sherbet hair at that point?
I think so. Yeah, I think he had
in 98.
A little late
I'm
for
not.
it.
Yeah, I'll have to check. Yeah,
because I would love to see Jonathan Majors with that hair.
The all super dyed
You
hair.
don't have to do a ton to make him look big either, because Jonathan Majors is fucking huge.
He is massive. Even if he didn't have the hair at that point, they're gonna put it in this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
it's that I bet that's the first set photo that leaks, and everyone's gonna freak out about it.
They could do that or the neon green. The neon green was.
It's the green, I think, is what he had then, just based on just looking through the pictures. So you'd have the green streaks, which is kind of cool. But yeah, very pumped for that. And the last thing, which I'm not as pumped up about, that Now You See Me 3 officially in development.
I just had to throw this in there.
I mean, you want to talk about big piles of shit. That last one, what the fuck was going on with Now You See Me 2?
Was it that bad? I never saw it.
You never saw it? It is.
You know what's weird? I like the first one. I don't.
No, me too.
I think it's universally agreed that it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, it's just remarkably stupid, but the cast sells it, and like there's some good action, good the illusion stuff is fine. But no, I'm not crazy about Now You Three Me. I think that
damn, that's smart. That's a smart title. I didn't even think about that.
I was very proud of that when I tweeted it. Yeah, but I don't know, and also like the sequel, even without seeing it, suffered from like one of the big like issues that sequels run into is recasting and or just adding in like another person. Like you lost Isla Fisher, who was really good in the first one. So I don't know. We'll see.
Do they bring back Daniel Radcliffe? That's the real question.
Yeah,
that's such a cheap move that they did in the second one, bringing Daniel Radcliffe to play a quasi-real magician.
The whole movie was cheap. It was just ugh.
People were excited. I was actually threw it up as a joke, like onto our Instagram feed, because I was like, I just want to see this get roasted in the comments. The comment section, of course, just goes against every grain of like common sense. And they're just like, hell yeah, cannot wait. I'm like, what the fuck?
They're impossible to like narrow down. Like the only thing you'll know is like if you post literally any opinion on, at least on our Instagram page, like you're gonna get absolutely demolished by these people. But like it's very hard to get them to kind of predict on them. But yeah, so.
They probably love Blonde.
Oh yeah. Okay. You know what? Yeah. Fuck it. Let's get into Blonde.
Let's jump into it.
we'll start with Blonde actually, and then we'll get into the two movies we
We'll do
actually want to
Blonde
talk about.
quick.
Yeah, but first,
Maybe
before
quick.
that,
I don't know.
yeah, but before that, let's talk about Roman. Roman, what would you do, or what do you do to last longer? You think about baseball? You think about baseball, Chris? Probably not now because baseball is good for you in a sense.
I mean, I'm always thinking about baseball.
An awesome football game, a good TV show, legendary concert, anything else that you could think about to try and last longer. How about instead, Roman helps you last longer in bed with 30% off. Oh, wow, that is a weird copy that I just garbled up in my head very dyslexically. Well, Roman wants you to last longer in bed. 340% better in bed. Roman swipes are the secret to longer lasting sex. They are uniquely formulated to reduce overstimulation without eliminating sensation altogether. The more consistent you are with the swipes, the longer and better your sex will be. The swipes are super easy to use. Just take out the swipe, apply it, let it dry for 5 minutes. Enjoy longer lasting sex. They're super easy. You've seen us advertise on social and all the other platforms before. Really tiny little package, just like yours probably. All you got to do is swipe it on and get nice and numb. It's great. Go to getroman.com/lights and get 20% off your first order of swipes.
We are absolutely honored to be joined by one William Shatner today, who has a brand new book out, or I believe, I'm going to get the date right. I think it's out as of this interview airing.
Well, depending when the interview airs, as long as it airs tomorrow on Tuesday.
There it is, October 4th. Boldly Go: Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder. We'll dive into some of the things you talk about. Don't want to spoil the whole book, but I'll give you the quick little synopsis. The beloved star of Star Trek, recent space travel, living legend William Shatner reflects on the interconnectivity of all things, our fragile bond with nature, joy that comes from exploration, and this inspiring and exhilarating collection of essays. We're going to have to address one of my favorite quotes I've read in recent memory, you talking about The Masked Singer, but we'll get to that momentarily because I had a very big laugh out loud reading your thoughts on going on that show. But this book, I got to say, it is very honest, very raw. You've written many a book, but this feels pretty deep. You talk a lot about family, you talk about parents' depression. Was this, in terms of the books you've written, was this one that you kind of opened up? I don't want to say opened up more, but really was all kind of dumping out there raw as you could be?
Several of the books that I've written are anecdotal and amusing stories of something that happened. And if the book happens to be oriented towards Star Trek, I would write about a Star Trek adventure of something that happened on the set or something that happened in transit and that interested people. But there are a couple of books, and this being one, which comes from my heart and observation. I'm of the age where I wish I could say I was wise, looking back with wisdom. I feel I know nothing, but I have a few experiences that may be of interest and a kind of growing sense of the insight to the interconnectedness of the universe, which includes us. So that's what the book is basically about. I have had an adventure musically where I was, I in essence failed, and then the arc took a lot of years to arrive a while ago when I entertained at Kennedy Center and to great success. So my feeling is, since the universe vibrates and everything's vibration, including us, if we can get in tune with that vibration, how do you do that? Prayer, meditation, awareness, even just talking about it. I don't know, but I believe there's a connection, not only that you and I and a snail has, but with the entire universe or universes. And so the closer I get to dying, the more I'm hopeful that is true.
Yeah, you talk, I think a lot too about especially family, and I'm curious because, so for example, just a quick story on my end. I lost my father back in February, and you had a very interesting and open line in the book talking about paying attention to your family, your parents, when you were kind of coming up through through acting and things were really picking up and all of that. Do you find too, especially putting that down, pen and paper, is it like a almost cathartic? Is it almost some sort of different type of therapy? Because you do get into depression a lot. You reference, and then you talk about how much you thought about Anthony Bourdain and his journey. But do you find that? Because I found that you put it down a little bit, it's an interesting process.
It is. And I discovered that because I dictated it, I would just start to talk and tell the story with as much detail and poetry, if you will, that I could summon up at that moment and then rewrite it, retalk it, maybe once or twice again. That in that oral history, I would relive the moment very vividly, whatever that was. And so you start talking about something and suddenly the emotions erupt because theoretically they're close to the surface and you've never sort of dealt with it. Death is, it's so easy to say, oh, so-and-so died, and yeah, let's go get an ice cream or something. I mean, you diffuse the emotion because it's painful, and in reliving it, it gets more difficult to diffuse it.
You also talked about your space flight. A good chuckle from some moments in that chapter. You talked about when it was pitched to you, like, how about this? How about the idea of Captain Kirk in space? And you said, I don't think so. Which I call me back because I feel like most would assume, who may not know you personally, like, oh, of course he would. Of course he would want to go in space. It seems like it was worth it, but it took some convincing for you to be like, this, I guess, send me up in space.
Well, it basically was, why am I fighting this enormous adventure that's being offered to me? And that's the genesis of so much of what happens in my life. And I got to think in everybody's life, something comes down the street and, I'm not going to, would you like to take a ride? No. Come out to dinner? No, I won't meet this. No, I just, we refuse to visit life on so many bases, using our work or other relationships as an excuse. I think there's this adventure, maybe if I know anything, is that there's this lifetime adventure, which is so limited. It's like booking an airplane ride to Europe and you die at the end, because the number of years you have to fulfill whatever yearnings you have, the number of years is very limited. You think, when you're going to high school and you can't do anything there. And then when you're sick and old, you can't do anything there. So that thing in between is so limited. It's like 50 years. Mm-hmm. You got 50 years of energy and stuff. Are you aware that COVID has lasted 4 years and it just went by?
It's crazy.
These are all cliches, and I hate it. That was said yesterday by the guy who's living in a tent. It's a truism. Time is so short, and to make use of the extraordinary gift that we have of awareness of how gifted this thing is. So that's it. And I think that's what the book is about, taking failure and going with it for as long as it takes to get into success.
Mm-hmm. We would love to get a chance to talk to you about some stuff that you not only just mentioned in the book, but some Star Trek stuff as well. Something with Star Trek that I always found very interesting, but also daunting, was that obviously you were part of the one half of the first interracial kiss, right, with Nichelle. And with that scene, were you and Nichelle and Gene like scared of backlash, or was that just like another day at the office, like, hey, we're just going to do this? Or was it like, we're afraid of what's going to come next?
Well, I'm not as aware. I'm Canadian and not as aware as many people in America of the sensationalism. So for me, it was this beautiful lady, and I was asked to kiss her, and I didn't find that Oh, that was beautiful. When I realized that it might cause some consternation, I didn't really think about it. And in fact, a few stations in the South kept us off the air, to my knowledge, but it was all right. I did a movie in Cairo, Illinois, at the beginning of school integration that was far more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a scary experience, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess like that's where at a certain point in your career or whatever, if you can make something that's like impactful like that, and you can kind of challenge a norm, that is like a goal, right?
Well, as an actor, that's not my objective. My objective is to tell you a story as real as possible.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. One thing that got me into Star Trek when I was younger was I was an avid fan of Futurama, and Futurama has an incredible episode based on Star Trek, and I would just love to know what it was like to be part of that because you lampoon a lot of real life Star Trek tropes or jokes or things like that. They spoofed obviously Duhan with Welshie instead of Scotty, which I always thought was so funny. They spoofed the spoken word Rocket Man with Slim Shady. Just how much fun was that process doing that Futurama episode and reuniting with a whole bunch of the crew?
Well, I don't even remember it. So you're asking me to go back and remember a show that, I just did an interview this morning prior to you, and I've already forgotten it. So I must say that having fun and making people laugh is the main object. Making people cry in order to make them laugh is, I suppose, the way to go. That's the great plays and dramas.
Mm-hmm.
But making people laugh is a big objective of mine. So Futurama, I don't remember it.
It was a great time. Throughout your whole career, what was do you think your best cameo, tinier role that you've had? Because like we were just talking about Fanboys the other day, but what's been like your funnest performance where you got to do like a smaller role?
God, guys, my favorite cameo. I really don't do cameos. Oh, I guess I did an appearance in I'm sorry, that's beyond my. I tell you what I did do. There was a kid called Rated R who was a rap singer. And there was a moment in the movie where somebody's idea was to do a rap song of a Shakespeare, of Antony over Caesar's body, friends, Romans, countrymen. And so somebody found Rated R, and I went down to this studio in the middle of nowhere, and it was very spooky. And there was this kid. I don't remember his real name, but Rated R. And so the object of my being there was to tell him what Shakespeare had in mind with friends, Romans, countrymen. And well, this guy's over the funeral of a friend of his, but the enemy's all around. And again, Rated R's going, yeah, I get it. And then he doesn't want to offend the enemy, but he wants to pay obeisance to his friend. Yeah, I get it. And then he sat down and he wrote a song called No Tears for Caesar, which I performed in that movie. And that could have been like a highlight of everything. No Tears for Caesar, a rap song about a Shakespeare moment.
That's awesome.
That's pretty. Oh, somebody yelling outside. That's pretty great to be involved in that one. That's a solid answer to that question. Then little side thing. You also mentioned in the book too. Speaking of Star Trek for Star Trek fans, you talk about your relationship with the cast a little bit, and you related to something that I found very interesting, especially in this day and age. I don't want to like read the whole book on air, but you talk about Nichelle Nichols and talking to her and learning about how you were viewed when you're younger in that Star Trek role and maybe reconciliation with other cast members. But you discuss being liked and not wanting to seek approval as someone in the public eye and like not needing that. And how important that is, especially nowadays, and you're very active on social media. That is more the case than it's ever been, right? Like the constant need that people have to be, and we deal with it too.
People have yes and no. You can you can have an arrogance about not needing to be loved so much. I mean, you want to be loved by people in your life, but I've overcome my need for you guys to love me. Okay, I fought it, and now I've overcome it. You don't have to love me. You both of you with your beards nodding. Yeah, okay. There's a need for approval, and then there is this overwhelming need to assuage your ego all the time, and one should grow out of that.
Yeah, and do you think though how much of that too, like where was that aha for you? Is it like in that social media era where you truly see and hear every opinion, or way before that?
Long before that. Well, I was, I was fighting. I had fights at school all the time. People would jump me, and I'd be fighting two kids at the same time, and it was grade school was really a tough place for me, and in high school, talking about sports, I played football on a city-winning team, so that was pretty good. But I was always doing plays, so I was playing football and being an actor, and the football guys would say, "What are you doing? You know, what is that?" And the actors would say, "Well, why are you playing football?" So this life between sports and this thing I wanted to do was part of a tough life.
You sound like the plot of like a John Hughes movie there.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's just very in between the acting and the field.
Yeah.
I have to ask about The Masked Singer, as I said. I read they asked about your experience, and it wasn't a non-answer, but you were like, this was very, very unusual, which is, I feel like for someone like yourself who like, you wrote this, like so many books, and you write this book, which is so encompassing.
But you're torn between. I mean, they're nice people. They got a show on. You know,
it's very successful. I will say it's not like
I know you don't want to
canceled.
denigrate them, but and actually, I got in touch with two somewhat well-known friends of mine who had been on the show, and I said, "What was your experience?" And both of them said it was the worst experience of my life. And I said, "So was it mine." It was, but the Masked Singer show glories on that. Yes, it's everybody's worst experience.
You were eliminated with Eric Idle, which is, I mean, talk about it.
Wait a minute, I thought I won that.
You did.
Afternoon.
Yeah, you did. You mentioned
How was I eliminated?
You couldn't see. You couldn't really see out of the thing.
Couldn't see, couldn't hear. And what is more important than both of those, I couldn't breathe because the mask is closed. So you're breathing out carbon dioxide, and within a couple of breaths, you're breathing in carbon dioxide, and that's how you faint. Okay? So everybody with those closed masks are wandering around, seemingly having had 6 shots before going on the air, but in fact, you're carbon dioxide poisoning, and you're going to die. You know.
Maybe I'm like overdoing it, but I truly am fascinated that in your career that this could be the most unusual thing you've like. Is it the number one most unusual?
Okay, so I mean, a lot of things have happened on stage. I opening night on Broadway in a one-man show, I crapped in my pants, okay? And I had to say I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't get out of bed that morning of the opening night. And Dr. Oz and another famous doctor took me in hand and got me on stage, but I couldn't leave the toilet. And halfway through the opening night in a one-man show on Broadway, there's been a technical difficulty. I'll be right back. And I run upstairs and shower and do what I can to change.
Sometimes
those
you
are
do.
things. Yeah. Those are important things to remember.
Not that we want to get you in trouble with anybody, but are you aware of the the rumors of Tom Brady and the Masked Singer. Do you know this story?
No.
There was a rumor that Tom Brady took time off from training camp with the Buccaneers this year because he was secretly on the Masked Singer. Can you give us a head nod? Was he on the Masked Singer?
They won't. They don't tell us.
Okay.
I've never seen secrecy. I mean, I've been at the CIA headquarters. I've been with a lot of people whose secrecy is, their job is secrecy. I have never seen anything like that. They got code names for everybody. You don't say your name. You don't say the name of the show.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it is like you're going to be. I don't know what they would do to you, but there has to be a punishment if you defy their laws, which is don't say Masked Singer.
I think the only way to make the show better is if you guys get all the contestants together. You're still in your masks, but this time we'll shoot you into space, just like you've already been, and we'll do it all in 0G. I feel like that'll make it a little bit more challenging, because obviously this is not challenging enough already.
I mean, singing a song with the sound, trying to hear the music, and then dancers that you can't see. I mean, it's just I was helpless, and I had rehearsed this number, Dancing with the Ritz again, and I thought, well, this is a good song, and it just went all to hell.
There's a short movie in my head right now of you going back in time in the costume to yourself on late night TV about to sing back in the day and being like, don't do this.
Yeah.
Just don't do this now, and you won't be in this costume this many years. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I did it because the book is coming out, Boldly Go. It's tomorrow on Tuesday. It hits the book stands. It's like an important moment for the sale of the book and thusly for the publishing company, who, if the sales are good, will ask me to write another book, and I have a great idea for another book. So I'm out pounding the pavement.
Well, now you're going to have to go back on Dancing with the Stars again for the next book. Now you're going to have to do Dancing with the Stars again for the next book.
Yeah, that's right. But then I never did Dancing with the Stars.
Sorry, Masked Singer, I meant. Sorry, my mistake.
Oh, no, we might have just signed you up for Dancing with the Stars.
Shoot, now I think we did. Yeah, you're going to have to do the
Maybe we could do the Unmasked Singer.
Yeah. Speaking of masks, one thing that a great part of horror lore is the fact that Michael Myers wears a mask of your face in Halloween. You ever get to see a dime out of that? Star Trek ever see a dime out of that?
No. The only thing I got out of it was when my kids were younger, I would take them trick-or-treating in the Los Angeles area. And I would wear the mask. Okay. So the daddy is taking three little girls, and off they go, okay, trick or treat. And if they didn't get any candy, I'd rip off them.
They say this next one coming out is the last. They're like, this is it. I've never believed anything less in my life.
You better go see it.
I've never believed anything less in my life.
Right.
We'd love to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions just about some stuff throughout your career. The first would be what your weirdest fan experience was, because I feel like, especially if you're in a property as vaulted as Star Trek was, just like there's a lot of fans that get way too personal too quickly.
Yeah, I had my underwear stolen out of my hotel room.
There you go.
And then the phone rang, and there was somebody, a female fan, said, I stole your underwear. You want it back? And I said, yes, I want my underwear back. She says, well, I'll be right up. And she knocks on the door. Yes. She says, all right, sign my left breast and I'll give you your underwear back.
That's the price.
I don't know if we can ask this question anymore. That might be it.
That's the best one.
There's no story. That's.
Wait, usually when we ask, especially someone who's in big sci-fi or fantasy property, it's
I'll do tit for tat, right?
Yeah, literally.
Was there anything more valuable in there than your underwear? Like, I guess underwear is valuable.
Very personal.
I feel like they could have gone something else, though.
If you're on opening night on Broadway, yes. Was there anything more valuable? Well, you try to keep that to a minimum. I think she was just after some sensationalism.
When you performed the spoken word Rocket Man, what was the crowd like?
You know, that thing has had a life of its own that had no impetus for me. I think it was the first first award show for I'm trying to remember the name of the award show for science fiction. Hey, dogs, and you know you're in my home, right? And so they asked me to come. I said, all right, came down there, and they said, well, will you sing a song just for the audience, for the 300-400 people that had gathered there? Oh, I'll do Sinatra, Rock It Man and Rocket Man. There was a third interpretation. Hey, guys, quit.
Just we understand this happens. We're dog guys too.
You understand? I've got two major Dobermans.
Oh,
yeah, one's 100 pounds, the other's like 80, male and female. And they play and they bark and they guard and they eat the carpets.
That's
They
tough.
eat the
worst.
That's yeah.
So I've got these wonderful carpets that have this worn look around the edges, like tattered, like weathered, tattered, because they've gnawed everything. So I don't know what to do, whether to turn the carpet around.
Jesus.
People come in, they probably think you have these really nice aged carpets. Like, oh, look at this. Look at the
That's
wear.
what I mean.
Yeah.
They're like tattered. So what were we saying?
Oh, just about the Rocket Man crowd at the
So
Saturday
the
night,
Rocket
right?
Man.
Yeah.
So I did Rocket Man, and they put a camera on it. Well, that was it. That was it for that moment, and then it comes out. I didn't expect it to come out. I was having a fun with everybody, and all of a sudden, everybody's taking me seriously on Rocket Man. But then I did it again on an album, and I did it the way I wanted to do it then.
Oh, I love that. There was one time a lot of talk about a Tarantino Star Trek movie. Is that something you would want to see?
Oh yeah, I mean he's a wonderful director. He's a great director, and he'd bring a lot of blood and guts to
Yes.
Star Trek.
Yeah, that's for sure. One of the big battles in the nerd world is Star Trek fans versus Star Wars fans. Like we're fans of both, but like some people just like they clash it a lot. But for you guys on the back end, did you ever feel any sense of competition with Star Wars while Star Trek was still, putting out movies and airing and everything?
Yeah, the original competition was in the studio heads because Star Wars comes out and makes $1 billion or whatever it was, and the people at Paramount said, "My God, the science fiction thing, what have we got?" And somebody said, "We got that old show called Star Trek." And so, well, let's make a big Star Trek and we'll make as much money. And it didn't make as much money as Star Wars. The Star Trek, the movie, was supposed to have been the answer. And it didn't make as much money. So everybody got really down on it. And it looked like Star Trek would be canceled until the women, the wives of both the guy who owned Paramount and the wife of the director, Bob, director of the movie. And their wives said, "You better do it." And they did it, and it became the beginning of Star Trek.
Good advice.
That, yes, sneakily.
Seemed to work out, yeah.
A sub question of that: how many takes did it take you to get the perfect Khan yell?
Again, what do you want me to do? Yell? No, what? Okay, I'll yell it. You ready? And then
It's worked out.
it's
an
there.
iconic moment.
Right.
Before we go here, a reminder: book out October 4th. I'm asking this knowing that you kind of answer in the book a little bit, and you mentioned
the name of the book is
Boldly Go: Reflections on a Life. Do we count the
subtitle?
Do I say the subtitle? It's Boldly Go, but do I say the Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder? Or is that kind of like the?
That's kind of like the last verse in a song. No,
Okay, yeah.
That Boldly Go is good.
You again, you kind of answer this, so I know what the answer is. And you mentioned in here that you would like to write another book, but like, do you think on like the spectrum of like your life, career, all that, have you said all you can say, or you're like, you know what?
No, No.
So
That's
much
the
more.
problem. That's the. I'm out of
But
stories.
when you're writing it, though, you're like, this is it. But then you're done writing. You're like, oh, I have more, actually.
Well, but if you take the subject, I want to write a book on two guys doing an interview show with their computers in front of them, and they can't get away from the computers. They're stuck. They bring them water, they bring them sustenance, and the two guys who are actually not there together because there's a separation right in between, and they're in two. One is in Timbuktu, and the other is in Northern Africa, which is where Timbuktu is. The story material is around us. It's all there. And some of it I'm experiencing, and I'd like to tell you what I'm experiencing. Like Rated R is in jail for murder.
Jeez.
Okay, that's
Didn't see that
a
coming.
leap from that story.
What did he do, and what was my connection with him? Isn't that like a chapter? Wouldn't you be
Yes.
interested? I did a song with Rated R. He's in jail, and I'm going to go visit him, and I'm going to talk to him. Is that something you would read?
It
Absolutely.
would be, yeah.
That's something I would like to write.
There we go.
And then in between, you talked about the Masked Singer with two white bearded guys in hoodies and jackets.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Thank you. So this was again an honor to speak to you. Boldly Go: Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder. If you're listening to this interview, it is out now. Go check it out. Again, thank you so much. This was
Thank
fantastic.
you for having me.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you.
Have a great day.
Jacob Batalon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ken Jack just said it. You outdripped
Yeah,
us by
it's
a
pretty
mile
rough.
today.
Pretty rough.
Like,
It's annoying. I mean, I live in Brooklyn, so I know what's up with New York, but it's annoying as fuck.
Yeah, you look like the cooler version of Cruella DeVille. That
Oh,
makes sense.
thank you,
You got
man.
the-
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I got this in Serbia. Shout out.
we're just I'm in shorts.
Yeah, I'm in like an NFL
You see,
gear.
my thing is, y'all are brave wearing the shorts though. That's crazy.
No, I just don't get. It's you get used to it here.
This is
bad.
like if you spend a day in this office, it's like multiple climates. Like
Yeah.
there's a part of our office
For
where
sure.
one is just dirty.
Yeah.
But then there's like a wall where you're like, how is it
It's a biodome.
20
Yeah.
degrees
Yeah.
colder this one step I just took?
Annoying.
Lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
New show for you.
Yes.
Lead role.
Yeah, it's a pretty great time. Reginald the Vampire is a vibe. I feel like, in the industry, we find that not a lot of people of color have this opportunity, especially someone who looks like me, in the sort of industrial sense where I'm not a leading man type. So, it's a really great opportunity, and it's a really fun show.
Let me read this synopsis they
Yeah.
put out here. So, sci-fi,
Yes.
October 5th.
Yes.
Which if you're listening, that is I think this podcast comes out the 4th, so it's the day before.
Yeah.
10 p.m. Eastern. This is the synopsis they sent.
Okay.
It seems very dramatic, by the way.
Yeah.
Imagine a world populated by beautiful, fit, and vain vampires.
Mhm.
Reginald tumbles headlong into it as an unlikely hero
Yeah.
who will have to navigate every kind of obstacle. The girl he
Yeah.
loves, but he
Yeah.
can't be with. A bully manager at work, and a vampire who wants him dead.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Reginald discovers he has a few unrecognized powers of his own. That is dramatic.
That is dramatic.
Because I don't know, it's comedic.
It's very much. I would say that it is absolutely all those things in one. In that we play on the vampire tropes, but we also make light of a lot of things. Social acceptance and societal stigmas and diversity and all these things. We have a lot of people of color on, a lot of people from the gay community on. You know what I mean? Like we have a lot of great people in the cast. But yeah, absolutely. I think that our main thing is that we're trying to prove to people that you don't need to look a certain way, be a certain way to be the hero of your own story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The vampires have had kind of like a weird history over the last 20 years because, especially just in media,
Sure.
because with Twilight and stuff, like people
Yeah.
just made a character trait out of just
Right.
hating them, and then they
Absolutely.
came back in a huge way. And we have kind of proof positive with shows like What We Do in the Shadows. Like, hey, we can take this
Absolutely.
on, be cool and funny, and this
Absolutely.
kind of feels like it's in that same vein. But
Yeah.
why do you think the sort of paradigm shifted on them?
I think it's because, like you said, fans are just tired of the same old tropes, and I think that it's just time for a different take. I think for us personally, I believe we wanted to make something that is more grounded than more vampiric, and it's really just a human journey with the backdrop of vampirism. So I think that's a really important thing to note. But yes, we still stick to dumb shit like blood all over the place and weird sexual tension and all these things. The blood, by the way, is not it for me. But yeah,
I was
going
gonna
to
ask you about that.
It's a
How
great
much
time.
like do you just like leave set and you're like, dude, like there's
Bro,
so much.
so basically the secret is you scrub yourself down with shaving cream, right? And then you like kind of wash it all off, but you continue this process until it's completely gone. And then, you know, you come out smelling like a fucking freshly shaved beard or something. Like that type of shit. So like it was a lot.
It's lucky because I feel like back in like the 70s and 60s, they'd use that really cornstarchy type
It's
of
still
stuff.
the same shit.
It's the
like
same
it's
stu-
like sticky, it's gross, and then like
Oh.
you have to like be all serious. So like you have to like have it coming out of your mouth and like you're biting on people, and you're like, this is unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to do it this way.
I like that because maybe like a regular movie where it's okay, you have one scene with blood. It's
Sure.
like this ain't stopping. Like
Bro,
that.
it's like every other day of my life.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was awful, but still a great time. Love it still. We'll continue to do it always.
you had a quote that I read. I think you said it on a podcast. You talked about in drama school you did gravitate towards dark characters. I feel like for those who may not know your history, that would be obviously a surprise between Spider-Man.
Yeah, for sure.
What is it though? Maybe about the comedic characters, and you expanded in the podcast that you're like, all right, like I used to do dark, but this is a little different. These comedic things.
You know, I think in a practical sense, it's fucking money. But in a more creative sense, I would say that it's absolutely something that I've never really tried doing in drama school. You know, I feel like actors want to be all fucking brooding and like emotionally intelligent when you're in drama school. So like that's what I gravitated towards. But then, you know, after a while you're like working in the industry and you're sort of like, well, I definitely need to fucking put bread on the table. So that's sort of where I'm at. But yeah, I would say it's really fun, and like I'm not always in a deep depressed state all the time. So I would say it's a good vibe.
Not locking yourself in your room doing weird
like shapes to my body to feel like all fucking like I'm really in this, you know?
Yeah. What are some of your favorite vampire movies or actors or portrayals?
We do a lot of like low key references in the show, but you know, we love the regular, like the original Dracula. You know, we really enjoy Dracula Untold. That's a really vibe. That's a good one. And then Interview with a Vampire, classic. But you know, problematic in a way, but the new show's a vibe. So yeah.
Every time I think about Interview with a Vampire, I think I wish they would just let Tom Cruise do evil roles. He's so good.
It's like
when he's playing bad guys.
When they do like the wigs and the crazy makeup too, he really falls into that shit. Fucking shout out Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I know. Man, do more bad roles, like Collateral, stuff like that. Is TV kind of like a nice, kind of like relief versus doing movies? Because like in your movie, you're stuck in Atlanta or Bulgaria, whatever, you're on a green screen for 3 months out of the year, but TV, you're like smaller.
I would say that it's a lot more work, like in terms of line work and performance. You know, with movies, you have like, depending on the budget, because independent movies also could be like a lot of like fast paced, like moving on to the next scene. But you know, we take a lot of time with camera setups, and there's sometimes 25 to 30 minutes in between each setup. Whereas with TV, it's sort of like a few, like the same 3-4 shots in every scene, and there's like pages and pages of dialogue. So I don't know if it was like a refreshing change, but it was definitely a different challenge. But it was worth it for sure.
What is more exhausting? Is it that then, or is it just the big feeling of is it a different type of exhausting?
I think it's a different type of exhausting for sure. I think, you know, obviously with Spider-Man and whatnot, it's sort of, you know, there's things that come with being in Spider-Man. You know, with TV, you're sort of like, unless you're like on some HBO shit, like, you know, you're just on TV and you're like just trying to do your work. So I would say it's more the work is very much tiring to like think about work and then like produce and then go back to working and then like be in a meeting for like 25 minutes and then going back to like work. It's like a whole different energy for sure.
You mentioned Spider-Man on a scale of 100% to 100%. What is the likelihood that all fans say you're just like some sort of Morbius spinoff? Like, is that Is that all you're gonna get?
Yeah,
now?
you didn't mention Morbius in your favorite vampires. That was kind of odd.
You know, it's so funny. I feel like I've done this to myself. You know, I stupidly mistakenly mentioned this thing like back in 2016 about wanting to be a villain, and like now it's just turned into like a whole fucking like, it's just like, dude,
Different
like
monster.
It's like my fault, and I'm like stupid. I'm like, oh, like I would love to. It's like my thing. It's like so fun to do. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, meanwhile, people are out here fucking plotting the next 7 movies.
Yep.
and they're like, maybe he's gonna be a villain in it, and like people are like either absolutely love that idea or people absolutely are fucking disgusted by it. So like, I'm sorry, everyone. Like, I'm really sorry.
Jacob confirms Sinister sticks. Like, it's like anytime you say a word, that's what happens.
We were like jotting down things to ask you, like things to talk about. And I said, actually, wait, let me go look at like replies to maybe like the tweet or the trailer, just like just various things about it.
Sure.
And there was 2 instances that I saw replies to either the trailer on YouTube or something where people said they're like, well, you know, Reginald, Ned is short for Reginald. I'm like, I don't know if that's.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I don't think that's it.
True.
I don't think that's it.
And it's so bad.
But it's cute. That's a cute idea.
Like an idiot, I did look it up, and I'm like, why did I just Google that?
It's all
Ned is
good.
not short for Reggie.
It's all good.
I don't like. I
Not even
don't.
close.
I don't think
That
Is
is
there any
funny.
vampire Reggies? And I don't know. We're gonna have to look this up.
In terms like the leading thing.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of other stuff to talk to you
Yeah,
about. But in
for
terms
sure.
of like the leading thing with Reginald the Vampire as well, though, like what is kind of that next big leading step for you? Do you have something you're like, okay, that's in my line of sight?
I mean, I'm absolutely trying to be like I'm trying to write my own Star Wars series right now,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
I'm all about like wanting to have the Force and a lightsaber, all that crazy shit. So it's been a long process. There's so much like canon to like look through and a lot of comics to read, and like it's tough when you're like doing like geek culture shit because there's so much things you need to consider. And people are like, I would say like fans of like fantasy and like fiction stuff are like the
Maniacs.
most passionate fans. I don't want to talk shit because I love y'all, but y'all are fucking out there. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
it's true. Trust
goddamn.
it. You're talking to the right
Like-
people. Yeah.
Like it's crazy, but
My home office is lined top to bottom with Star Wars Hasbro action figures.
We've been saying how we like that Lord of the Rings series, and like Tolkien heads will like come for our throats. They're like, it didn't follow this one canon part from page 37 of the Silmarillion.
And it's just like dude, I remember reading a review for that show, and they were like, you know, honestly, it's based on like the boring
the
shit.
appendices.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, like give it a fucking chance, bro. Like, goddamn. And it's a beautiful show. I actually really love that show. Like, I love fucking Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
And like people, I think House of Dragons is a really solid show. Like, I think it's a great show, besides, you know, minus the incest vibes. But I would say that like even people are talking shit about that show, and it's just like people will nitpick everything. You know, like they will find a reason to hate it, and you just got to keep fucking glowing. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what's the Star Wars dream there?
I mean, I don't want to give away my secrets.
don't
'cause
give
people
away
are
that.
gonna take my ideas, but I'm definitely like I want like a 3-picture deal. You know what I mean? Lightsabers, the Force, all the works. My own action figure.
That's
all
the
that
key.
good shit. But yeah, I mean, really, I would love to just go to Disney World one day and see people like get a costume of me. You know, that'd be really vibe. But you know,
If you need nerd research and canon research, we're not the best, but we are. we are like
worst.
yeah.
Actually, I feel like we're canon experts in the nonsense. Like I always reference like Dexter Jetster from Attack of the Clones.
That's a deep cut,
What's the
my
dude that held
guy.
the ice cream machine?
Yeah,
in
Will
Star Wars
Hood, the guy
episode
that-
two?
No,
Will Hood, yeah.
not my boy. He
Will
was a
Hood.
G though.
He
What the
was. He
fuck?
was. Did you ever see a Comic-Con when they do, or a Star Wars celebration where they do the running?
Yes,
The things like,
yes.
dude, it's so fun.
Our other favorite would be the guy also in Attack of the Clones has maybe the best, like ridiculous. And our another podcast, The Weekly Planet, our good buddy, they're Australian. He always jokes like George Lucas loved that era so much he put a 50s diner in his story. But there's a character
dirty.
who offers Obi-Wan the death sticks, and his name is Elon Sleaze Bagano.
Sleaze
You gotta
Bagano,
if you get your series,
I'm gonna put that dude in. That's gonna come in. That's actually hilarious as fuck. I like the sort of miscellaneous characters that they throw in. I think that's hilarious.
Sleaze Bagano. They're like, yeah, whatever.
That works.
Yeah. I don't even know where to really begin with Spider-Man and the MCU, but I think an overarching, like, do you ever just like sit back? I don't know, maybe it's like the drive over here to, and you're just like, holy shit,
Yeah.
well, this is ridiculous.
I think for me I've definitely when we first started working on the movies, you know, we were like 19, so it was definitely a different experience. But now that, you know, we've been in this world for like years, I think that it's more just like I'm in awe of the idea that people still are going with it. You know, I think what's so amazing about the fans is that they're like really just they love it so much that they don't care that it's over. You know what I mean? They'll like continually, and because like Marvel and Disney are like so like locked in with like content for like decades to come, it's like there's so much to be excited about. But yeah, it's crazy to like see yourself in like other countries and like see people like you meeting people in like fucking Serbia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just interesting. Like it like you realize that the human condition is very much like everyone's normal. Like if they like see you on movies, they'll fucking flip the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like it's not like there's no in between. So it's either someone really fucks with you or someone really doesn't like you.
How hard is it for you, specifically with No Way Home, to sort of keep in spoilers? Because I think like you're in a good spot because you're working with Tom Holland, who all he does is spoil everything. Like, yeah, so how is it? What was the difficulty level for you, making sure everything stayed under wraps?
Oh man, I feel like for us, we wanted to keep the secret because we knew like what it meant. And we just knew that everyone would die over the movie. And it wasn't that hard. You know, I actually had my girlfriend on during when Toby and Andrew first came out. And she like inadvertently had that like secret now. And so she's not a fan, right? Like she's like not a superhero fan. So she'd be like, why the fuck is the first Spider-Man like here right now? And I'd be like,
a mistake? Yeah, what is it?
And I was just like, well, baby, basically, like, we're gonna bring them all back. It's a big secret, so don't tell anybody. And she's about to tell her dad straight up, like, I just met Tobey Maguire. But she had to like stop that. But it was great. Yeah, and she like sat on it for like a year and a half. Yeah.
What was your actual reaction when you found out that they were both going to be in?
Shook. I was genuinely like, oh, this is actually happening. And you know, I think for a lot of us, we were genuinely like, we hope it turns out good. And then they turn out to be fucking awesome. They were like thoughtful and sweet and kind and really hardworking and like also very grateful for the opportunity to be on. You know, I think that they obviously understand like what it means for all of them to be in one movie. So like they took it very seriously, but we had like the best time working together. So it's like definitely like a moment in time that we'll always keep.
That we talk about too. Like it is one of those things, and like you include Endgame and Infinity War. Like none of this shit should work.
Yeah,
like it should.
It almost makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. You almost had. I would say because we were at I think 3 different opening nights for Avengers.
Sure.
And like the crowd reactions for the portal scene, all that shit, they go crazy.
Yeah.
But like you are the center point or the kicking off of something that I think kind of the reaction for the crowd for that was as big, if not bigger, than those moments, which I can't even imagine must be insane.
John Watts, like he knew that it was supposed to be a crazy moment, but I think that he's smart as fuck, so they understood that fans, if they already were expecting it to happen, they were probably expecting it to be like in the most dramatic way. But because it was in my fucking grandma's apartment, it was like the least suspecting thing ever. And then to have them have that interaction with my grandmother and them together was like perfect.
It's so funny. We have to ask, when do you think you'll know more about Spider-Man 4?
I don't even.
If Feige's not here, there's no shock on off camera.
Honestly, I mean, like, I don't even know there's gonna be a Spider-Man 4, bro. Like, if I'm being hella honest, I wouldn't be the first person they tell. You know what I mean? And if anything, I don't know. Fans would probably know before us. I just think it's hard for me to speak on things like that because even if I did know, there's no reason for me to like say shit. Like,
no, we every time we interview a Marvel actor, we always joke about how Feige's off screen with a shotgun. Like he's just waiting for somebody to say something.
But see, Kevin Feige's the fucking man. You know what I mean? He's the shit. But absolutely, I'm afraid to say anything.
Have you ever tried to steal one of his hats?
Oh, he's the best hat man in the world,
bro. He has every movie's hat ever. Like it's crazy, everything. But no, it's just like it's like a crown for him. You know?
All right, we'll force you to put your own Feige hat on. Yes, put your Feige hat on.
That's hilarious.
If you were forced to introduce mutants in the MCU, how would you do it?
Fuck, man. I mean, I just watched the Doctor Strange movie, and I saw Professor Xavier in it. And honestly, I don't know. I'll just start trickling them in, man. Fuck it. Like, I think Deadpool's
Wolverine
up
back,
right? Yeah, that's crazy as fuck. Yeah, I think that's like the best way to do it because I feel like I'm like not a heavy fan, right? But like I'm casual enough to know that like the X-Men movies were like not it.
The OG.
Yeah, they were like good, but they weren't it. And so
after
like
the first, it just and the second, but like it
was tough. But I would say Origins was a vibe though. I would say
Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
What about Logan?
Yeah,
Logan. We're big Logan guys.
Yeah, it's a good.
Logan is people are like. Because now people are like mad. They're like,
it's not canon,
but it's different timeline. It's like
right.
50 or some shit.
Right. It doesn't even. It doesn't matter. That could have happened anyway. Right. Yeah. It's like again the timeline shit, multiverse shit.
But this is what we're talking about with the diehard fans. With
it's like
anything canon.
Nitpicking shit, man. Like, oh It's hard for me to get into it.
You stoke the flames a lot. You mentioned this tying back to Reginald the Vampire, talking about like doing the villainous roles and all that.
Yeah.
Reminder, October 5th on Sci-Fi. But you I think you've put up some like Instagram stories. Obviously, like your character in Marvel lore is very connected to Hobgoblin.
Yeah,
People,
absolutely.
Like, are you just trying to mess with people? Like, because there has to be a little enjoyment out of that.
My girlfriend and I love like. It is a lot of like trolling shit, right? It's like we both know that I'll get a reaction out of anything that I say. So like we'll go to a toy store and I'll take a picture with the fucking Hobgoblin toy, and people will be like, "Oh shit, Spider-Man 4 is about to happen," and it's like, no, like no, it's like I know y'all are crazy as hell. That's why I do it.
Do you last thing on this? Do you hate Avatar because come on, you want to have to be in?
Sure.
The highest grossing movie of all time, right?
I mean, God, I would love to be an Avatar. It's such a solid movie. Like, I feel like that's like the first sort of like all sort of CG world that was actually beautifully made, and that was back in like 2009 or something.
And I'll tell you, it re-released. I saw it in IMAX.
I went and saw it yesterday.
It looks,
It looks
really
unbelievable.
good. Yeah, it looks literally like you're in a different world, and like that's hard to say. Like, I would say Lord of the Rings back in 2002 was like crazy to watch too.
Yep.
Like, but you can see how dated it is now in a bit, and even like Harry Potter. But like that was crazy. Like that was a different level for sure. But yeah, I mean. Put me on, James Cameron.
Putting those 3D glasses on. I mean, I do remember, I think my dad or someone was like, man, this does feel like the future. But like, since then, it's really just Avatar. Like every other 3D movie, you're kind of like, I'd rather just.
We went to a screening where they did 3D glasses, but I didn't.
It was Spider-Man.
Was it Spider-Man?
It was Homecoming.
Homecoming.
They're like, here you go, toss on the. Which we go as fans, and we were. The critic Richard Roper actually said this recently. In Chicago, he said he doesn't take notes in screenings because he's like, I
hate watching people do that.
I want to enjoy the movie. But like most people in the city, we go to screenings, they're taking notes.
They're sitting there with a notebook. You're not watching. You're just sitting there fucking writing.
They're wearing these big, like, doofy 3D glasses. And they're like trying to take notes about Spider-Man.
We're just enjoying. It's just like, how can you take yourself seriously? It's a fucking superhero movie. Like, you know what I mean? It's like literally for kids. Like, chill on it. You know what I mean? It's not that deep. You know,
you would not believe. Like, we'd be at the screening for like Cars 3. There'd be some dude just like, oh god,
furious. It's not the same color like
Lightning McQueen.
The Jay Leno car in this movie? No way.
That's hilarious.
We want to hit you with something we call six pack of questions, rapid fire answers.
Let's hit it.
First one: were you a Twilight hater?
No, not at all. You know, I fuck with it. Like, maybe not like to an extent that everyone else did, but I knew of it and I was a big fan. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've seen all the movies, but I knew the hype around it. Like, in Hawaii, obviously, like, media is like a different animal. So when Twilight came out, it was like revolutionary. You know, back home, it was sort of like, damn, like these things are actually out there happening. And meanwhile, they got like sparkling vampires and shit. And I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, that's a vibe.
What was your weirdest fan interaction? Every time we ask this, it's always a bathroom for some reason. I'm not sure if yours is the same.
Interaction? Fuck, I really got to think about that. Because there's weird shit. But
yeah, again, always in the bathroom. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it's always like at a urinal.
Yeah, I've had a bunch in the bathroom. This was actually just in Serbia where I was in the urinal, and the guy standing next to me was like, I don't know if he was looking down at my dick, but like, he definitely like recognized my dick before my face. So I don't know if that's
yeah, that is good.
But he definitely was like, oh my God, Spider-Man. I'm like, oh yeah, my guy.
I feel like if you're got like a story where it starts off or someone says something and you know it's about to go on for in your head, you're like, oh no.
There was one person actually. I was out at like some theme park a few years ago with my friends, and she came up and I thought she was immediately gonna be like, oh, loved you in Spider-Man, but she like mentioned a movie I did, like it was called Bloodfest. It's definitely a small movie, and she was like, that's like my favorite of all your work, literally. Like, fuck Spider-Man, Bloodfest is where it's
That's
at.
awesome though.
I was like, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
You should get out once like Spider-Man goes away, you should kind of get on that Harrison Ford vibe. You're like, nah, I don't like that fucking role.
Yeah, exactly.
I was with Han for so many years, like, whatever.
And he got himself killed off. What a G, bro. What a G.
You get the green light to make any movie you want with an infinite budget. Who do you pick as your co-star and your director?
God, God, my direct. I really fuck with the guy who made Sorry to Bother You.
Boots.
Boots.
Riley,
Yes,
right?
Boots Riley, and then
Wild movie.
Yeah, for
awesome
sure.
movie.
And God, my co-star. Fuck. Who I mean, probably. Oh man. God, probably. Fuck.
It's hard.
It's hard to because there's so many lit actors. Like,
Want us to give you two?
I would probably do. I mean, if RDJ was down to work with me on a movie, I would fuck with that because he's like out there in the best way. Like I fuck with his energy. But yeah.
Last thing, 6 movies, 3 favorite movies.
Okay.
To start off, so give us your 3 favorite movies.
Fuck.
Not easy question. We get that.
Goodness. I mean, besides the Spider-Mans, I would say
That's a good. That was a great. Good job.
Yeah.
That was yeah.
Besides the Spider-Mans, I would say it's just really. I don't want to say corny or cheesy because I fucking love it, but it was like from the 90s. It's called Warriors of Virtue.
Okay.
It's about these like kung fu kangaroos. And it's like it is such a deep cut, but I love that one. I really love man, I'm really showing like how lame I am, but I really love oh my god. Citizen Kane and fuck, what else do I fucking love?
Kung Fu
man?
Kangaroos to Citizen Kane is such a.
It's a really weird.
That's cool though. I like you be like, all right,
all over the
I like
place.
it all, yeah.
And I would say the Dark Knight for sure.
Yeah.
I love the 3 differences in
Yeah.
those picks. Underrated movie. Movie you think
Underrated.
is better than people probably give it credit for.
Do people really hype up Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Dude, it's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, well,
It's
so maybe
so
not that
good.
one. Okay, God, a deep.
It's
Dude,
hard.
there's this one movie, but it's tough because it's like not a popular movie, but a lot of Korean movies to me are fucking lit.
Insane,
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's this-
I would say
yeah.
that I would think those qualify as underrated.
yeah, like
especially here. Yeah.
like it's just they're so good. Like I watched this one. It's called my girlfriend and I had seen this one called The Handmaiden. I think it's called.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
awesome. That movie
Holy
was psychosexual to
like,
the
dude,
hardest
like
degree.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like that to me is
Yep.
like so dope. And I really like I just watched it too. It's this movie with Adam Driver, Daniel Craig. They're like
Logan
thieves.
Lucky?
Yes.
Logan Lucky's so
I
good.
think that's a
I would
really-
qualify that as underrated as well.
because
Yeah.
people like they just see it and they're like, oh, a bunch of rednecks, whatever. But it's
Yeah.
actually a solid fucking movie. And Black Klansman for sure. I think people are like, well, it's like just it's fucking regular whatever. But it's actually solidly like a solid performance.
They call Logan Lucky Ocean 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is
exactly, yeah.
literally
Yeah.
the perfect explanation for it.
We haven't actually asked anyone this, but we're gonna start asking this. You're the first here.
Oh, sick.
You don't have to answer. We don't like asking. Some people like saying bad, but I feel like you're gonna be
Sure,
honest
sure.
here.
Yeah.
First movie you ever saw,
Yeah.
and you went, "Oh, bad movies exist." Like what's the movie you're like,
Oh,
"Uh-oh,
shit.
this is a bad movie."
Shit. Oh fuck. Fuck. That's loaded. Dude,
So you're younger too, so I feel like it's harder because now you're
yeah.
like, I might be offending like a real peer here.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Damn. I mean, like, I love the Power Rangers. Like, I will die for the Power Rangers. But like that one that came out recently.
The Krispy Kreme one. They talk about Krispy Kreme a lot. in the
Yeah,
movie.
it was. Damn, bro! Like the outfits that they had was fire. Like they looked dope, and they were all dope. It's just like, damn, it wasn't like a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that to me was like goated. But yeah, that was.
I owned it on DVD, but for me, it's always I remember walking out of the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg, and I remember
bad.
I remember saying
Real bad.
I remember
Right.
saying like, I don't know if that was very good. I don't think that was a very good movie.
Yeah, like
That
it's
was-
tough for me to say because like you'll see things that are dated and be like, well, now for the time it looks not that great.
Yeah.
But then like the message still makes sense. But then like yeah, there's definitely some movies where you're like, damn, that really did come out. Like fuck, like
Yeah.
I feel bad for those people, you know? Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. This
Thank
was
you, man.
awesome.
Thank you.
Anytime you want to stop by, but Reginald the Vampire,
Appreciate it.
October 5th on Sci-Fi. It's either coming out the next day or if you're listening after the 5th, go check it out. It's already out.
Ooh.
Thank you so much. And if
you guys.
if you need Star Wars consultants,
Yes,
Please.
we're
we'll
just
do that
across
with
the
you.
water
I'll
here in
actually
Manhattan.
And
I
we're
will
not
come through.
judgmental. If you want a non-judgmental canon people, we will be there.
I have this one thing. We should talk about it off air, but I have this really cool
Okay,
thing
okay.
about like, yeah.
We will. We're not going to spoil your secret. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
man.
Thank you guys.
All right, so we could talk about. We'll start with Bond. Originally, I was going to do them last, so we could just spend the entire time shredding it. I feel like it's good to just get out of the way so we can get to the good movies in Pearl and The Woman King. So let's start with Bond, by Andrew Dominic, who's made some, I would say, pretty good movies. Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, Killing Them Softly, I always really liked. A couple other ones as well. Anna de Armas, Adrian Brody, Bobby Cannavale. Look at the rise to fame and epic demise of actress Marilyn Monroe, one of the biggest stars in the world. It's based off of a fictional biopic book, which was very well received. Won I think a Pulitzer and like some other book awards and shit like that. I know we were excited for it for a number of different reasons, both moral and immoral. The moral one being they rated it NC-17, which I think it was Netflix's first ever NC-17 movie, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, that's cool because Marilyn Monroe, very tragic figure. A lot of her life was very adult, like in that sense. So like they're not gonna pull punches. Great. Andrew Dominic getting his hands on this, cool. Anna de Armas, one of the I would say objectively beautiful actresses in the world, getting to play an Hollywood icon. Like everything about this movie was like, shit, this should be good. She gets like a 9-minute standing ovation.
14.
14.
It's one of the biggest at Venice.
That's a disgrace. I thought it was like 9 minutes, but like anyway, he gets a big standing ovation at Cannes, and like we're all kind of thinking like, yeah, shit, maybe they did something here. I'll start first. This is just the most pretentious piece of shit ever. The most dog shit movie I've had to sit through in a while, and to the point where I did not sit through it. I DNF'd this movie at about the halfway point, which is safely around 2 hours in. Like, I got to a point where I was watching it, and I'm like, this movie is explicitly made for people to hate it. There is no way that they looked at this edit of this movie, this 2 hour and 47-minute long movie, and were like, people are going to like this. Like, there's going to be critics out there. There's going to be this, like this, that. No, like, there's no way that any human being sat through the cut of that movie and was like, this is a palatable movie for people. Or not even, like, uncomfortable in a way where it's like, that's the purpose. It's just a bad movie. It is a truly bad movie. And the fact they got a 14-minute standing O is insane to me because it was just 2 hours and 47 minutes of nothing. Or, again, only for me, only about 2 hours, thank God. But it is just the most DNF movie, the movie that is created to get people to stop watching it. It's the most frustrating movie I think I've had to sit through. Again, not in its entirety in a long time. But Chris, what'd you think?
Yeah, this is one of the 5 worst movies of the year. I don't have it number 1 because the bubble exists, but at the same time, the big issue I have with this film, and it's the issue that I've had, or I thought I would have. You can't make a movie that is pointing a finger in your face saying, you have exploited Marilyn Monroe while you spend 2 hours and 46 minutes exploiting Ana de Armas.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big problem. A movie I was thinking of while watching this was that movie Bombshell about the Fox News scandal, which I don't think is an amazing film, but the moments they really needed to get right, they got right in terms of just that tension, that uncomfortability that came with those horrible things that happened to those women here. I mean, I went off on Twitter. I'm going to try to avoid some of the things I said.
No, definitely repeat, just in case for the people that don't follow.
I got the impression Andrew Dominic might be a weird, creepy sex pervert because I'm like, it just seems like it is a fetishistic attachment both to Marilyn Monroe and to Ana de Armas. And I have no problem with sex in movies. And while it doesn't make me comfortable, I don't inherently have an issue with sexual assault or rape or women getting beaten on film if it matters in a sense, if it means that you're telling a story. But you get the impression he was in the editing room fucking tugging his pud while watching this, and you just feel uncomfortable watching the movie. And man, I wanted to praise her in this, and it's not entirely her fault, but I don't think Ana de Armas is even that good. To be honest with you, I think that part of it is the way that character is written, because it's all it is just screaming and yelling and no subtlety to anything. But it sucks because it makes me come across like I'm making fun of her. I heard the accent the whole time. I couldn't get past that. Like I heard it behind, and she was trying so hard there. And you brought up the runtime, 2 hours, 46 minutes. Like, again, what are you doing?
Fuck you for that.
Yeah. Like there's, and Marilyn Monroe ain't that goddamn interesting. There is one thing about this movie that I think is hilarious. You knew if they were making a Marilyn Monroe movie that Joe DiMaggio was going to show up at some point, right?
Oh,
Which
show up he does.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's another issue I have with the movie is it kind of feels like an SNL sketch at some point where it's like, hey, here's Joe DiMaggio, give it up. Here's JFK, give it up.
Yeah.
But as much as I fucking love the ground that this actor walks on, Bobby Cannavale as Joe DiMaggio to me is like a hilarious miscasting. Like, I think somebody said, find me an Italian actor. Oh, Bobby Cannavale is pretty good. Like he doesn't look like him. He doesn't sound like him. Not to say that his performance is like wooden or broken. Like he's doing the best he can. But I was just like, dude, that especially next to Ana de Armas, I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. So it is it's a train wreck of a movie. I would almost recommend it as a spectacular failure you have to watch once in your life kind of film, if not for the fact it's fucking boring. It is a boring goddamn movie.
And
so
long.
yeah, one of the 5 worst movies of the year. It is good to see, for the most part, that the entire internet is in agreement here. Because trust me, I had a lot of people in the blog I wrote and the video I made like, but what about Ana de Armas's tits? I'm telling you, if you come out of this movie turned on at
You're
all,
a freak.
and look, I don't fetish shame at all. Get yourself checked in. Like that. This is the sex in this movie, the nudity in this movie. It is not. It is so gratuitous. It's not even comfortable or enjoyable at all. And also, Ana de Armas has been nude in a lot of movies. Like, watch fucking Night Clerk. You'll get your fix. So or don't because it sucks. But yeah, no, terrible movie.
And I just want to know too, like, beyond the internet reaction being very against it, and rightfully so, critics didn't like it either. As much as those assholes like fucking applauded 14 minutes to her face, they gave it a 43 aggregate score on Rotten. Like, they didn't like it. We didn't like it. Nobody liked this except for Andrew Dominic, who, like you said, was probably jerking off in the editing bay. So, like,
good luck ever interviewing him. I apologize.
But I mean, at this point, like that, it's just it's a colossal failure. But yeah, Gooch.
I grade my movies differently from you all, and that you all will take a lot of you're much more seasoned in recognizing the more technical elements, and you're able to work that into your score. I almost purely always go off of enjoyment, and for that reason, this is my worst movie of the year. This is awful.
I don't blame you.
I did not finish after the second time. You get a Joe DiMaggio beating Marilyn Monroe. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It is a catalog of trauma porn, jumping from scene to scene. It is just disgusting to look at. And actually not disgusting to look at. It's disgusting to watch. But the cinematography somehow is phenomenal. I think the acting for it, I disagree with you. I think Ana de Armas is very serviceable, if not good to great.
Okay.
I'm also accent blind. I think we've talked about that before. I think the performances are strong, but it's the story and the direction they chose to go. And every decision they made was the wrong decision.
Yes.
Every decision they made in this movie was the wrong decision. It's a movie that should not have been made.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been made.
And you bring up the cinematography and the way it looks, and you are right. Like, Andrew Dominic can clearly frame a shot.
He knows.
really
I
good
think
at
he
that,
knows that too,
Yeah.
and he thinks he's very.
Smart.
I think he thinks he's
smart.
like the
Deacons, some shit.
Up his own ass.
Yeah, I think he definitely thinks very highly of himself.
But even that comes with a caveat, because I think it's stylistically inconsistent.
Yes,
Where,
yes,
like,
it is.
For sure.
There's moments in black and white that probably could have been in color. There's moments in color that could have been in black and white. It changes the aspect ratio every so often just because fuck it, why not? Like this, it's
just
the more I talk about it, the more this is such a vanity project.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Go ahead.
brutal watch. And again, I just want to note, I DNF'd. You DNF'd. Chris, did you make it to the end?
I did. Yeah.
You did. So you're the only one actually qualified here to give it a score. So like, I'm not going to score it.
I am. I give it a 3 out of 100, and those 3 points are 1 for Ana de Armas.
Wow.
1 for the cinematographer, because I like a lot of those shots. I thought it was not the CGI fetus, but like
how many shots of that do we need, dude?
like the car coming through the fire towards the beginning. I actually really thought that was really fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a 1 point for getting it made. Like, it's just hard to get a movie made, so sure.
It's in focus, so you get a point. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I had to give it a rating, I mean it's 1920. Like I mean it's because there are like I think if you took a single frame out of this movie, not one that's up on a de Armas's vagina, but like an actual like single frame, you'd probably look at it and be like, oh, this movie might not be that bad. Like I think we all watched the trailer and we're like, we'll see. But beyond that, like, whew, what a movie.
It's a movie that, like, I can't imagine Dominic watched that final cut and was like, "This is good for somebody." Like, it's not aimed at anybody. It's not like there's nobody that this is made.
These aren't topics that you can't explore in a movie. It's just how he explored them are just it's fucking grotesque how he did it.
Yeah,
it's offensive.
Yeah,
I would argue, and I usually go against this. I would argue this was a movie that needed to be directed by a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that if you're going to tell the story of a very famous woman who experienced remarkable physical, emotional, and sexual trauma, the guy who made Assassination of Jesse James just ain't gonna cut it. Not to say that that's a terrible movie, but I just mean I think that you need that steady hand there, and it's so clearly
also
lacking.
don't use a fictionalized biography.
Yeah.
Yes,
that the Monroe estate has come out publicly multiple times since the book's release, not even since the film was announced, since the book's release, and has been very against it and said that it's very, I mean, creative in their storytelling. Like it's almost completely off base and so many different parts of her life. And you would like it could have been a strong female empowerment movie. You could have shown her film career, how great of a comedic talent she was in Some Like It Hot, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and how smart she was, like a genius level person by all accounts. Like people say she was sharp as a tack. But instead, you tried to show her as just this victim for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Man. And it's like, it's not the way to do it. It's just
that is such a brilliant point, Gooch. And this will be the last thing I'll say is, and I didn't think about this till you brought it up. Not once does the movie ever really capture her talent.
Yeah.
No.
Not once.
It's the movie is, you're right. It's trauma porn simply about look at how abused she was, without capturing what was like the human being that was actually inside there and the talent that made her for a stretch of time probably the most famous actress in the world. That's an excellent point you made.
They kind of make her look like she's like a fucking doll or something, like that failed upwards and or was like inappropriately put into these places based off the value of what she looked like. Yep. It's like, no, dude, she was like really good. She's a really good actress. Like Gooch was just saying, very funny. Like she earned all those places. Like, but then like you make it seem like she's just, I don't know, fucking nobody pushover or some shit. It's like, no, dude, she faced like a lot of trauma and she powered through a lot of it. Like, I don't know, dude.
Watch Some Like It Hot if you're looking for a Marilyn Monroe movie to watch. It's very funny, holds up well comedically, which a lot of movies from that time don't. Very, very funny movie.
And watch the Monroe documentary on HBO Max, significantly better than this. And again, it's a fiction, so like it's not supposed to be based off their
God, that
real
pisses
life
me
or
off
anything.
so much.
But
This movie I hate this movie so
blows.
much. It makes me want Andrew Dominic to be like suspended from directing. Like
like
he deserves like the
without pay.
The SAG needs to come down with a suspension. No actor's allowed to work with Andrew Dominic for 10 years. I mean, it's offensive. It is straight up offensive how fucking I hate this movie.
And not like, again, it's not like like back in the day they'd be like, oh, it's offensive if you show a tit on a movie or whatever. It's like it's not offensive in a way like, oh, you just don't like my art because it's offending you or whatever. It's like, no, you just sucks. And it just sucks and it's grating and it's bad. It's not like I don't like it because you're challenging a norm. You're not challenging a norm. You're just making something that's complete dog shit. Which sorry.
If it's any consolation, Gooch, this is going to stick with him the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Oh,
every time you list off his filmography, you're going to be like, oh, Jesse James. Oh, Killing Him Softly. Oh, fuck, he did Blonde.
Yeah. Do we worry about Ana de Armas' star right now? This has been a rough year.
Yeah.
Your tweet was a great tweet, which is like, I think it's one of those things where when you're an actress or actor in Hollywood, you try to be as selective as you can because you're building up your stock. Her stock was built up, and now it's like I'm taking a bunch of star vehicles, and all her star vehicles have been bad. So far.
On paper, these things should have worked. On paper, a lot of these things should have worked. I think Red Notice should have worked. Russo brothers, Gosling, Chris Evans. I mean, great cast.
Great
Gray Man. Yeah, not Red Notice.
I think that's Gal Gadot.
Gray Man. Gray Man.
Deep Water.
This kind of makes sense too.
Oh,
Like, on
Deep
paper,
Water was so bad.
Deep Water
You're
was
right. Oh my
terrible.
god, her movies sucked this year.
Sergio is really bad too, I thought.
Her last really good role was, I'd
Like
say,
Knives Out?
No Time to Die,
No Time to Die,
in
yeah.
which
No
she
Time-
had
yeah, she was
15
great.
minutes of screen time, but she absolutely stole the show in that movie.
Yeah.
I think everybody agrees with that. So yeah, hopefully she gets back to something good. She's got John Wick, the John Wick spinoff coming up with
Mhm.
Emerald Fennell directing and writing. Yeah, I don't know what else she's got coming, but she needs to. She's gotta get back
She
on
has-
track. I really hope this doesn't follow her. I don't
Next
think this is
up-
her fault.
Is Ghosted,
No.
which is the movie. She replaced, I think, Scarlett Johansson in it. It's Chris Evans' rom-com
Yes.
action adventure movie from Rhett Reese, who did Deadpool, ironically. We were just talking about. And that's on Apple TV. But this, yeah. Okay, so I think I'm a DNF. Gooch is a DNF. I gave it 3 out of 100. Chris, you're bottom 5 of the year, but like, what would you
Let's
say?
go. Let's go 19. I mean, out of 100 there, just because. Yeah, I mean, it's in focus, but beyond that,
It's
not much to say.
it's just an absolute piece of dog shit.
Could you imagine being like the VFX artist having to put together those fetus shots?
Fucking Christ, dude.
You're missing Thanksgiving so you can make a CGI fetus.
Yeah. I might have much money put into that too. Just disgusting. Anyway, let's talk about 2 other movies that star and focus around women that are significantly better than Blonde was. We'll start with Pearl. We obviously interviewed Ty West for this movie. Mia Goth, the star, trapped on her family's isolated farm, Pearl must tend to her ailing father under the bitter and overbearing watch of her devout mother. Lusting for the glamorous life that she's seen in the movies, Pearl's ambitions, temptations, and repressions all collide. Obviously, a standalone prequel to X, which we thought was phenomenal. I forget, Chris, were you with us when we did the review of X? I think so, right?
Actually, no, I never saw X.
Okay.
That was I can't remember. When it was X March? Was that when it came out?
Around there. It was-
Yeah, I can't
Early
remember
summer,
the
late
exact.
spring.
I can't remember the event that caused me to miss that. But no, I never saw nor reviewed X.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
Yeah.
one thing that works, at least in your case, is that Pearl is a good standalone movie. Like
Right,
Ty
because it's
was-
prequel. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was intending the entire time. This movie, me and Jeff went and saw a screen over it a while ago, and I was immediately like, this is already one of the best horror movies of the year, and off of a great horror sort of little break, because we got that and Barbarian back to back in weeks.
Been a great year for horror.
Some awesome horror movies, and also I got the Hellraiser fucking screener
about that.
burning a hole in my
Don't know about
Gmail
that
right
one,
now.
but yeah.
We'll get there. I heard first half's okay, the second half is awesome. But yeah, so Pearl, I think that if you're talking about this movie, it's impossible not to just be like, just to talk about how Mia Goth absolutely crushed it, like Oscar level, like fucking insanely good performance, and then something that you wouldn't expect just based off of what happened in the movie X, I guess, too, where it's just like you wouldn't.
It's very separated from X.
Exactly. It's totally separated from that. And I think that this movie was awesome. Mia Goth crushed every single second of it. I like how it was very different from X in a lot of ways. X was more of like a traditional-ish slasher. This is definitely way less blood and way more anxiety, almost in like, and I think I talked about this in a review of him, like way more Ari Aster-ish, where it's like, we're not going to blood you to death. It's like, we're going to make you feel tension and like make you want to like fucking hyperventilate and stuff. A lot of amazing scenes in this movie. I would say that long take, 8-minute or 9-minute monologue that Mia Goth delivered with no cuts, absolutely insane, like one of the best movie moments of the year. And when we talked to Ty West about it, he said she did it in 4 takes, which is just insane. A lot of cool stuff in this movie, like adding Germans to anything makes it more scary inherently. The lady who played her mom was actually like, keep referencing their interview, but like that was the intimacy coordinator from X that he then hired to be in this movie, which is also insane. A lot of cool table setting, really looked like the early 1900s. That town they built for the set or whatever, like that looked like an early 1900s town. And this is New Zealand, and it looked like America, and like just a lot of stuff super impressive about this. I think most of it just comes from Mia Goth really just destroying the role of Pearl and delivering some moments that are some of the best horror moments of this year and maybe of even beyond. But Chris, I'm giving it a 90 out of 100. Chris, what do you think?
I thought it was okay. I'm with you on Mia Goth's performance. I mean, I think that was, I'm not going to give it, an Oscar or anything, but I thought it was, very effective. Ty West is very clearly an excellent director. And I think that very often, like, people associate bad films with bad directors, good films with good directors. That's not always the case. Like, you can dislike something and acknowledge how good it looks. My big issue, outside of the fact that I thought, per usual, the movie got remarkably repetitive, is that when you're making a movie like this, in which your protagonist is inherently, well, scarred, very unlikable, they need to have a certain charm that allows you to kind of carry you across the finish line. The prime example I always used is like, Patrick Bateman is the biggest bastard of all time, but I love American Psycho because Christian Bale is so good and his performance is so amazing. The character of Pearl, I think, works way better just in small sample sizes, because the movie did get to a point where she was annoying the shit out of me, and I felt bad for her, and I understood what she was going through. But it's one of those movies that probably when I watched it, I didn't care for it that much. As time has gone on, it's hard for me to really give it a rating, but I think that of the horror movies that we reviewed, over the last several months, which is weird. This is the third one that we've done really in the last month or two. I like it more than Bodies. I like it substantially less than Barbarian. Barbarian fucks. I'm still amazed at how much I like that movie. But yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to say. I think you have a good performance, you have a good director, a character that I couldn't really latch onto, and ultimately a story that I found relatively unengaging. But before we get to Gooch here, do you guys like it more or less than X? Because I will see X. And when I found out this was a prequel, I intentionally avoided seeing it because I wanted to come in with fresh eyes. Do you think it's better or worse?
I like it more, but it might just be my taste, because this definitely
They're very different.
It's more of a character drama than anything.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's kind of the impression I got. What about you, Kendra?
So I think I rated them both a 90. So like I like them both, but for very different reasons, because they are very, very different horror movies, which I think is kind of awesome, if that makes sense. Again, like X, more of a traditional slasher. And I don't know if you knew this, by the way. So Mia Goth in X, she plays totally different character in X, but also plays the same character but dressed up like an older person. So like she's all over the place in these. It's insane.
Yeah, I did know that. I did know that coming into the movie as well.
Yeah. So like I would say that like I like them both, but again for very sort of different reasons. And I don't know. I really dug both of them a lot. But Gooch, what'd you think?
This movie, let me get it off the bat. I love this movie. I really love this movie. It is, and this is a comparison I don't think is original. I think I've seen it online, but it is the Joker for women. It is a female-led Joker film. Like, in terms of you're watching somebody who is going through, basically they're psychotic, they're mentally ill, and you're forced to kind of be uncomfortable for 2 hours and deal with them going to their breaking point. I thought she was phenomenal. I'm with Ken Jack. I think this is she should be nominated at the end of the year. I don't know if she'll get that recognition, but I think this performance is as strong as you're going to get. She carried the movie on her back whole way through. Not that everything else is bad. It's just what the movie asked of her was to carry it from start to finish line, and she did that and more. Because the credits roll and she's still there, and you're having
credit rolling scene,
and you're having a staring contest with her while her tears flow down her face. Yeah, no, I love this movie. Aside from the acting performance, which clearly I'm a big fan of, the way it was shot to make it look like a Technicolor Wizard of Oz style film, I've never seen. It's so heavily saturated. I can't think of another movie. Maybe Pleasantville did that in some ways, but I can't think of any other movie that has done that in recent memory that made it look just like a movie taken straight out of the 50s.
No one's captured it that same way, yeah.
I mean, it looked great. I loved the way it looked. I didn't realize they shot this in New Zealand.
Which is impressive, I think, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a phenomenal movie. I'd recommend seeing it. I think what I did yesterday was I saw Pearl, and then I saw Avatar re-release. Then I came home and watched X-Men, or not X, not X-Men.
Okay, I was gonna say. Interesting.
No, I'm thinking about like a horror X-Men, like with Pearl as a mutant. Yeah, no, very, very fun movie. Not nearly as gory, which I always appreciate horror movies that aren't extremely over the top gory.
Look, you managed to scare people without showing gore. I find it to be a tremendous accomplishment. Like
A24 setting parents on fire once again.
Yes.
Yeah, no, this movie's fun. I think you can wait for it to release at home. I'm not sure you necessarily need to see it in theaters. I think horror movies always play better in theaters just because the sound design is such an important part to the plot. But this is a movie that
It's not like a jump scare movie though, right? Where it's like that, like a big part of that, like you're saying, like there's you get the visual scare and the audio scare, and you feel like it captures you right there.
great score, by the way.
Really
I
good
like the score. The Mia Goth dance number. I had fun with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I really did.
It's one of those things where like I understand not totally being engaged with the story. It's one of those things where like if it was anyone other than Mia Goth playing that role, I might feel the same way. But I just feel like her level, like the level she was on during this entire movie, really kept me in on it, and because I was like feeling that level of like anticipation and anxiety and stuff like that. And when she finally starts like freaking out, like it really, I think, hits a little bit different. And a lot of the actors and actresses, I think, helped a lot with that. Like the girl who played her sister-in-law, I thought was really, really good.
Mhm.
Not Mindy.
I couldn't tell. She looked like Sarah Paxton to me. I kept trying to.
I was trying to figure out who she was too.
Yeah.
She was really good. I think again the mom was incredible.
Mom was great, and it provided
really good.
it provided a kind of a latching point for Pearl's character, because you're like, well, I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling, like maybe feeling like your parents don't believe in you, and like you feel like you're being held back in a certain way. You're like, okay, this is the hook for us. Like, I want Pearl to succeed and become a star.
Yeah.
But obviously things don't work out that well. But you can like kind of sympathize with her in that spot. So yeah, that character was great.
Yeah, and her keeping all the bodies in the kitchen like all like propped up and shit, and like
the grossest part of the movie though was easily the maggots, right?
Oh, the maggots.
The maggots. Anytime you see maggots on screen, it's fucking disgusting.
Some bugs, dude, they freak the fuck out. And I like that they kind of showed you the relationship with the gator, which obviously plays a big role in X as well. I thought that was kind of cool. Again, there's small things in this where it's
how long do alligators live?
I have no fucking.
Is that a special alligator?
Because that was an alligator in 1918 that was there until 1970 something. I don't know the average lifespan. Might be the son of that gator. I don't know how that works.
Lyle crocodile moment.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember? You know, what was another really gross scene when she was crushing the alligator eggs. You know what I mean?
Yes, the explosion.
The eggs. Oh, like that. A lot of that shit, it just grossed me out. And there's a lot of different things, like little bits and pieces that I think Ty West threw in here, that were really scary. One of which being like the sound of skin grating on a tub is like so like kind of like hair raising. You know what I mean?
Like the squeaking noise.
Yeah, like the squeaking noise of like her in that scene in the tub with her dad like just sitting there kind of passed out. Like
Buddy's off the sauce.
Dude, he was slumped.
Dude, he was sauced up.
He was perped up right there. But but the sliding of the skin against the tub makes that noise that I think was really, really like just, ugh. And I think that her back and forth with the dad was really creepy, especially because like you could see him like, he can't do anything. Like that body horror, like being trapped in the spot, I think was really good. But yeah, just a lot of moments in this where I think that it excelled versus almost any other horror movie you'll see out there, and it's just very interesting. I'm happy A24 gave him the chance to do that, because like that's another thing we mentioned in the interview is like they were about to start shooting X, and then he's like, oh, what if you just write a script for another one and you just film it while we're here? And A24 was like nice enough to just be like, yeah, sure, just do it. And it worked out, and I'm happy it did, and I'm now even more pumped up to see Maxine, which will be obviously the sequel to X. But yeah, so if I'm giving it a 90, what would you give it?
I'd go 92.
92.
There's
Chris?
no way this is the same alligator. They only live 30 to 50 years.
Yeah, different alligator. Where would you give it, Chris?
The more we talk about it, the more I do appreciate it. I mean, it's a slight recommendation in the 60s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you guys know how I feel about horror movies, so for me, that's, you know.
Me, trust me, I'm not a big horror genre guy either, but I think that the big thing is 95% of horror movies are doo-doo water. But that 5% is usually really good. There's not a lot of in between. I think Pearl's, in my opinion, in that 5% of like really good elevated horror.
Yeah.
And then you have other movies.
Other horror movies don't
Like The
have sex
Invitation.
scenes with scarecrows.
Yeah. That thing
That
is
was
scary as fuck.
man. I can't believe we went this far without not bringing that up.
Hey, buddy, I wish I didn't have a brain. Woof, woof.
I know, for real. The face on that scarecrow was scary as fuck though. That creeped me out.
I kept expecting it to like her
Come
to
alive.
like come alive. Like imagine it being alive.
Yeah. Didn't happen. Whatever. Anyway, we have one other good movie to talk about really quickly. The Woman King, directed by Gina Price Blythewood, directed The Old Guard, among a few other movies. Viola Davis, Lashana Lynch, John Boyega, among others. It's the story of the Agoji, an all-female unit of warriors who protected the African kingdom of Dahomey in 1800s with skills and fierceness unlike anything the world has ever seen. And General Naniska, she trains the next generation of recruits and readies them for battle against an enemy determined to destroy their way of life. This is like now again the third movie focused around women that we will be talking about for tonight, and this I think is the second best after Pearl. I thought this movie you watch the trailer for it and you're like, oh, this is going to be some movie with zero subtlety that's just going to be like hey, shoving like this messaging right into your face with no like fucking remorse, and like that's it, and we want Hollywood brown points or rather brownie points.
I
to
think
be
that
like,
was very purposeful. Now looking back on the marketing to make it look, I mean, let's use the word, they were trying to make it look like a very woke movie.
Yes.
They wanted people to say that. I think they wanted the trailer to get some secondhand marketing
yeah.
off of reactions.
But
to
like that's not the type of movie it is, I think,
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
It's really, really not. It's just a really solid at its core, a really good action drama that kind of combines, I think, like both in the action drama combo, it combines like both of those things really, really well. And like sometimes you'll have one where it's like, hey, super, super action heavy, drama's okay, or inverse. This, I think, did both of those elements super, super well.
Yeah.
Viola Davis, obviously awesome in everything she does. This is no exception. But I think Lashana Lynch specifically dominated this movie. Every scene she was on,
fucking presence.
dude, every time she's on camera, she absolutely crushed it.
Wow.
You didn't like her?
I'll keep going. We'll talk.
But okay, so I think
Can't wait
anytime
for
she was
this.
on screen, she's just like the physicality of her, like just dominated that sense where it's like you feel like the almost like the high school bully level of her, and like the dramatic scenes, I think she crushed as well. This is one where I also love the set pieces. Like a lot of the, like you feel like you're in these places. You feel like you're there. You don't feel like you're in some green screen in Atlanta or whatever. You feel like you're in those spots. I think they did really, really good job of like, kind of using maybe inventive camera work and like some on location spots to make you feel that. And like that's world building, man. Like in historical documentaries or historical shows, like their movies, they don't really do that a lot. I feel like, and especially the bad ones, but did it really, really well. I think out of all these, the only complaint, like bigger one I have, I guess, is like I wanted a little more Boyega, even though he's not the star of this movie. But I was like, you advertise John Boyega, he's like kind of like a leading man in my brain, where I'm like, he's going to be a bigger focus. He has like 5 lines in the movie, but like at the same time, like if he wanted to do it and he was okay with taking that small role, that's cool. I just expected him to be a bigger part of it, even though.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's the Woman King. It's not about fucking him. It's about the other people involved. A lot of really good stuff to come from this one. One I would recommend anybody. I know there's backlash from the Twitter historian crews going fucking ballistic, being like,
Actually, Dahomey was slave traders.
they were slave traders and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. Like, spare me the fucking performative tears crying about Dahomey, someplace you definitely never heard about until you watch some TikTok about how this was historically inaccurate. Shut the fuck up about that sort of stuff. Ridiculous, dude. But yeah, anyway. I thought it was a good ass movie, fun time, good drama, good tears, good action. Combined a lot of those things in a great way. Chris, what'd you think?
I think it's impossible to call this a bad movie.
Mhm.
Like, I just think it's so, it's almost the inverse of what we talked about with Blonde, where I think it's so important to discuss director's intent. And it's like the passion behind this project is so apparent, and everyone is taking themselves so seriously. I mean, like, Viola Davis, I feel like I praise and or criticize actors all the time in the show. Viola Davis is in like the top 1% of best actors or actresses working. I mean, she's so intense in this. And again, you can tell, like, I mean this as a compliment. This movie doesn't crack a fucking smile. Like, it is so intense with its intentions. I think that it gets a little bit scatterbrained at points where there's you get the action, and then in right around maybe the halfway point, maybe about 40% in, all of a sudden it becomes this family drama. So I think that they could have streamlined the narrative a little bit tighter. Boyega's good. I thought the nighttime action sequences were a little bit lackluster to me. And that's an issue I've always had with a lot of movies, is that's a difficult thing to do. And that's why, for me, going forward, I pull a Jordan Peele and just do day for night. Like, even if it doesn't look completely realistic, I think the possibility of those sequences looking just clearer and less murky, I think are more likely with something like day for night. So it's not like, this is not a movie that was really made for me, but I appreciate everything that it did and tried to do. You bring up Lashana Lynch because the reason I was laughing is because I have a friend of mine who has been adamant for years that she sucks. Like, he's just said, like,
where would that even come from? Like, where is he?
like
What is he watching her in?
I know where it came from. It came from the fact that he hates, and we should have him on the show at some point. He's great. He hates when certain actors are presented as the next big thing.
Okay.
Where, like, I remember when we came out of Captain Marvel, a movie I did not like. a bunch of people were like, yeah, that girl, that Lashana Lynch, she was great. And she's just all right, I guess. I did not like her in the Bond movie either, and so I
really see. I did like her in Bond.
You see, I thought she was. I didn't think her performance was necessarily bad. I just thought that her character really did nothing for me. She's better in this than she's been in anything else I'd seen her. But that's the reason I was laughing is not me saying, "Oh man, Lashana Lynch totally stinks." No, she is good in this, and I give the film credit for giving her character a legitimate arc and even a tragic arc. So yeah, it's a strange one because I don't view it as particularly memorable, but it's a movie that I think for the most part hits so many of the beats that it was trying to hit, and for that it does deserve credit.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Gooch?
I echo a lot of what you guys said. I do agree, and Chris, if I had to take points away from the movie, and I don't want to do too much, but I think it gets off track at points. I think the romance subplot, the introduction of the character from Chile.
Wait, which character?
His mother was from Dahomey and his father was white.
Oh yeah. The Portuguese or Brazilian guy.
Yeah. I think that whole subplot could have gone.
Yes, agreed.
I'm not sure we need it. I do understand the point they're trying to make, although it's not a point I can really identify with, is like being in touch with your roots, understanding where your family comes from. I understand what the point they're trying to make there, but I think it just bloated the movie a little bit towards the middle. Outside of that, though, I do think Lashana Lynch, she's very reminiscent for me, at least, of like Charlize Theron. Like where she's just such a physical presence on screen. I need to see her in more action stuff. She kind of can just dominate a scene, and it doesn't look ridiculous, which is something a lot of people will complain about when you have a smaller petite actress like a Scarlett Johansson swinging around and taking people down. Whereas like Charlize Theron, she's doing action sequences. It looks very real because she is so tall and imposing. I think Lashana Lynch can pull that same kind of the same sequences and that same presence off. Lashana Lynch, obviously, also very, very beautiful. I mean, model level beauty.
That scene where she they do the spear thing, which they showed in the trailer, that was awesome.
When they're
like so cool.
To each other, that's fucking insane. That was some Roman war stuff. That was sweet. I mean, it's just a great. I agree with you, Chris. Like, it's not a movie anyone I think has any right calling bad. Even if you didn't enjoy it, like. It's just too well made, well acted. It's a good movie. I'm going 80 out of 100 for it.
Yep, 80 out of 100. I have it at 86. What would you have it at, Chris? Chris, if you had to pick one.
Chris, you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys cut out for a second. Can you say that one more time?
I'm going with 86. Gooch has 80. What do you have it at?
It's somewhere in the 70s. You know, I do enjoy them. Like a 73, something like that.
So
I do enjoy.
Chris is the most racist and misogynistic here.
Well, but that's nothing new. I mean, that's been acknowledged. I think that's been known.
I will say Lashana Lynch was also the most physically like she was jacked. Like Viola Davis, she's like 50 something. So
she's big, but she carries it well. It doesn't look goofy.
No,
like she
looks more strong than fucking She-Hulk does.
That's her frame. You know what I mean? Like that's just her frame. Like she's just a big woman.
But that's what's cool about it, dude. She was like just destroying those dudes, and it's believable because she just is so jacked. And like they do I think a good job of casting throughout that movie. Like all of the Agoji, like they were all like pretty strong and like athletic and doing all these weird flips and kicks and shit. Like I think it looked really cool, especially. You mentioned the nighttime fight sequences. I agree with you; they weren't as strong, but like the daytime fight, like where they do the ambush of the camp or whatever, was sick.
That was badass. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, though, that does bring up. I'm glad you brought. That's the biggest complaint I have with this movie, and ironically, we talked about it earlier. It's PG-13. There's a lot of really brutal moments in this movie where I think it was necessary to see the violence.
Yeah. And
they shied away from it way too much. And so for that reason, despite the fact that the film is remarkably sincere, there are these instances in which you're like, man, God, this feels like it could be just that much more brutal and make it more effective because there's some really fucked up shit that happens in this movie. And you don't really feel the impact of that because of the lack of violence.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel like it definitely would have been elevated by more of an R rating. I also think, like you're saying, as far as the scatterbrain stuff, it did apply to stuff like if I could axe that subplot with the Brazilian guy, I probably would. If I could axe the other sort of minor subplot with the wife that hates.
Yeah, I never really understood what the fuck was going on there.
Yeah, that's the only thing I would axe.
I didn't know what was happening there.
Yeah.
Maybe I looked away for a second and just missed it, but I was kind of confused. Like, so there's two kings, and
Oh, you mean like
She-
the ending of it? Yeah.
well,
yeah.
no, like just like kind of her political power playing throughout the movie. I didn't
Yeah, I
really-
was. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. I was confused by the dynamic
Yeah.
in general. Like,
But-
yeah, no, I'm with you.
I'd say outside of that, I think the biggest pluses for this again, action and drama were both great. And I think more than anything else, world building in this was such a huge key, and I think they did a phenomenal job of that. Great set pieces, great action. Also, Hero Fines, right? Who played the Portuguese like main bad guy, I guess you would call him.
Wait, is that Ralph Fiennes' son?
It's I believe Ray Fiennes'
Ray
nephew.
Fiennes. Yep.
Not Joseph Fiennes' son, but another one. It's basically Cooper Manning's kid, more or less. Basically, he's what's Cooper's
He's
kid?
Arch Manning.
Yeah, he's Arch Manning.
Archie
basically.
Manning.
Yeah,
The youngest one, not the old dead.
yeah. I don't even know. That was him, right? I'm not going crazy. I'm gonna make sure.
I know you're talking about the French guy, right?
Well, he was Portuguese. These guys.
See, I don't know. I don't know anything about these European ethnicities.
Yeah,
Just
Hero
guess.
Finds Tiffin. I don't know how he spoke Portuguese, but his Portuguese sounded. I mean, I don't know how to speak Portuguese, but it sounded legitimate. Whatever, from a very non-professional ear.
My name is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, other than that, I think all the other actors and actresses are pretty damn solid. And it's weird. Like, I want to see more movies like this. If I can make that like that, that's one big takeaway. Like, I would love to see more historical, I guess, fiction movies where it's like they bring you in a world you don't know about. Like, something like in a world where it's not in your average history book, like a Julius Caesar or some shit. Like, go somewhere where we're not familiar and tell a historical drama there and do it well, like this movie did.
Yep.
If that makes sense, because there's a lot of stories like that. But yeah, so that's our 3 reviews for today. Blonde sucks fucking ass.
Don't watch Blonde.
Don't watch Blonde.
Yeah, that's
it's not even worth. It's not even worth the hate watch.
That's why I brought it. I did want to preach that, where it's like, don't. There are certain movies that you're going to see throughout a year
Yeah.
that are so bad you almost recommend them just as a once in a lifetime thing. This ain't the fucking room. Like, really do avoid it. And that's like what sucks is that it went nuts on Netflix. It was the #1 movie on Netflix this week, primarily that was
We know
something
why.
that was something I didn't bring up in the review. I think Andrew Dominic went out of his way to make sure this got rated NC-17.
Mm-hmm.
It just,
Yeah.
you know, they knew what they were doing.
It was a
So,
ploy.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so that's Blonde sucks ass, Pearl good, Woman King good. Go check those out. We'll be back next week. Jeff will be back as well. I don't know which movie we're going to review then.
Monsters.
These fucking
Wait,
monsters.
let's look at it. I just posted the list of movies that are coming out. Let me see.
What do we
I
got?
can make a decision.
Have you guys watched that yet?
No,
No.
I'm not going to.
Oh, really? Oh, dude, I want to
Oh
watch.
fuck! Do we have to see Amsterdam? I've heard it's so bad.
Yeah, I've heard Amsterdam stinks too. We should do that. I
I
mean,
guess
stay
we'll
with
do
Russell.
Amsterdam.
Big ass cast.
Does Werewolf by Night drop this week?
Fuck. I just got the screener for that too. I'm gonna
Yes,
watch
where
that.
we
Heard it
should
was
do.
awesome.
We should do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do Amsterdam and Werewolf by Night.
All right. Yeah, we'll figure it out for sure later and tweet it, I guess. But yeah, so we'll be back next week. And until then, I guess have a good week to the box office, right?
Yeah.
I felt wrong saying that.
We'll let Trill take care of it.
Yeah.
We'll cut him in.
I felt wrong saying that. I apologize. We'll let Trill take it from here.